I'm sure it'll break in. What is up, y'all? Welcome back and welcome to an entire brand new series. 10mm testing is a big part of the channel, and we are going back there again with the Smith Wesson M&P Performance Center 10mm carry comp. Now, those of you that have been with the channel for quite a while know that that is how the channel started. Our very first video ever was the 10mm M&P. When it first came out, I believe it was the shorter version. They had two different barrel lengths at the time. We had the shorter barrel version, and it didn't do so well for us. We were very fresh, very green at making videos back then. Those videos are hard for me to watch sometimes. But the information is still there. The gun struggled, and it didn't just struggle for us, it struggled for a lot of people. Now we have the newest iteration of this gun, and I'm really happy that we do. I wanted to test this when it first came out. I couldn't get my hands on it right away. We're on a budget. We can't just jump on things really quick. Plus, I kind of wanted to see if anybody else just immediately had problems with it, because I don't want to jump on something that's just going to fail guaranteed. That's no fun. But the reports came back mixed, so I wanted to go ahead and investigate ourselves for sure. We plunked on our own money for this. Nobody sent this to us. Theturkeysopinion testing, for those that don't know, is no BS. We don't have sponsors. We don't have people that give us things so that we can fluff it up and try to push it on you. That's not what we're all about. Total honest testing here and extensive testing. So let me put the disclaimer out there right now that there's not going to be any shooting in this video other than B-roll and background stuff, because right now we're just explaining how the series is going to go. And yes, I said series. This is an entire series, a very large series on this gun. We don't just do very simple reviews for 10 minutes and run one kind of ammo and cut and edit and you only see all the good parts. We don't do that. We show everything, and we're deep diving into this gun for sure. We're not going to let anything slip by us with this firearm. I'm a little bit hard on Smith & Wesson, sometimes a lot hard on Smith & Wesson, but don't get me wrong, I love Smith & Wesson products. Sometimes I like the older Smith & Wesson stuff more than the newer-ish stuff. I carry Smith & Wesson constantly, whether it's revolvers or semi-automatics. I trust my life to Smith & Wesson firearms often. And no, again, this is not any kind of a promotion or anything like that. We don't do that. I'm speaking very honestly. I don't like a lot of their products, and I love a lot of their products. I think that makes sense. We can have both worlds mingling together. But anyway, back to what we are doing here. What we're going to be doing is what I think you guys should expect of these tubers who have these things in for review. And that is use these things realistically. Put ammo through them. Shoot them with full magazines +1. Use them like other people might have to use them with those kind of ammunitions under certain circumstances. We have red dots right now where there's no excuse not to be able to try to shoot accurately. Show actual accuracy testing, and don't just do it with a red dot. Go ahead and, employ some shooting skills and do it with the iron sights also. Iron sights are very important, and a lot of guns, believe it or not, the iron sights are just way, way off. You shouldn't have to put a red dot on top of a gun to make it work. But that's just a regular part of a lot of our testing. You deserve to see accuracy testing. And as you saw in our thumbnail, we run a plethora of ammunition through this firearm. We have so much ammunition. 30 different types of ammunition make their way through this firearm. Not all those ammunitions are a full 16 or 15 +1, but a lot of them are. We just over and over and over again run those full mags for reliability purposes. So this testing series includes 19 videos and a live chat that we will do at the end of all of these videos getting published. And I'm telling you, these videos are going to get published rapid fire. Monday through Friday. So this video is coming out on a Saturday night. Sunday is going to be a different video that's in the queue, but starting on this upcoming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, videos for this gun every single day. We're going to give it a break for the weekend, do other videos, and then we'll be back at it. So 3 weeks in a row, Monday through Friday, you will see this firearm. And over those 18 more videos after this one, we're going to go through, like I said, 30 different ammunitions, 500 rounds. 500 rounds. And that's important for 10mm. 10mm has all sorts of different ammo variabilities. Everything, we're going to run it all through here, but everybody knows that 10mm produces very light stuff and then very hot stuff, and you can put all different kinds of projectiles, but 10mm is a little bit of a problem when it tries to find consistency with its ammo, let's put it that way. Certain manufacturers do certain things and other ones do other things. There's not really a standard for 10mm. But trust me, we're going to run the lightweight stuff, the heavyweight stuff, the lightly loaded stuff, the hot loaded stuff, hand loads, aluminum case ammunition, polymer coated ammunition, hollow points, full metal jackets, all of it. Why? Because you deserve that. You might use some of these ammunitions. We even shoot this gun at night to see what the port does in case you have to use it at night with a ported gun. That can be significant, so we want to see what the flash is like. And something else we do that's very important in my opinion for a defensive style gun, you're going to see limp wrist testing. Those of you that have been with the channel for a while know that we do limp wrist testing on many firearms, this one included. We're going to even see if it's compatible with .40 caliber ammunition, just in case you're in a pinch. And we're definitely going to compare it to some of our other firearms in 10mm. 1911 Springfield XDM Elite, that's a total channel favorite, and many of you also love the Glock 20. Those are all unported, and that will be versus a ported M&P. If we run into any problems during testing, we have some possible fixes that we could utilize. Cross our fingers, I want this thing to work. As tough as I am on Smith & Wesson, I want this thing to work. This kind of would complete my 10mm collection if I could get along with the ported part of the gun. I have 1.0s, 2.0s, metals. I have 9mm, 40, 45, 357 SIG. This would definitely be a good addition to the collection. But it's got to be reliable with all kinds of ammunition, it's got to be accurate, and it's just got to be a darn good gun. And I got to decide if we can get along with the porting. And I know some of you are wondering why I keep saying that, why I'm making a big deal about the porting. It's because nobody else does. Everybody is snatching up these ported guns like crazy, and I don't know if they're putting a lot of thought into it, or I don't know if the manufacturers are putting a lot of thought into it. Is it a good idea or not? We'll find out a little bit more about that in this series. So the bottom line is if you're interested in this gun, the Smith & Wesson M&P 10mm carry comp, make sure you're subscribed, check the notification bell, do those things you're supposed to, but check back because even if you don't get a notification, we're gonna have the videos up. Now we will put them up in blocks of 5 for our channel members as a thank you to them because they do help us do what we do. But other than that, they'll be coming out, like I said, Monday through Friday. At the very end of all those videos, we will have a live chat. We'll get that scheduled in there, and we're going to talk about it. Anybody that wants to come in, go ahead and come into the live chat. We'll discuss this gun top to bottom, but we will do that on the second channel. For those that don't know, we have the Turkey's Second Opinion. Check out that channel, subscribe to it. There will be a live chat regarding this gun sooner or later. Now, in about 3 weeks, put it that way. So, on top of that, for those that don't want to watch this pieced out, on that channel, when this is all done and all these videos are uploaded, published, and all that, we're going to make one big smashed together video so you can watch this entire series start to finish on the other channel. And we might put in a little bit bonus commentary while we're doing it. Now, some people might say this is overkill. I say that this is awesome. 10mm M&P started the channel. I owe it to you guys. Everybody that subscribes to this channel, that likes what we do, I kind of owe it to you guys. I definitely owe it to you guys to explore this gun big time. Like I said, started the channel. And I'm going to do it right because I'm personally sick of the shill reviews. I'm sick of things being pushed on me. I'm sick of people doing lazy testing. I'm trying to set a standard here. We need to start holding our tubers accountable to a higher standard. We want to see real testing. And a lot of these guys who are pushing things on you, I'm not going to call out anybody by name. They have the money, they have the resources, they have the backing to do all this testing. Sometimes they sign agreements not to do this kind of testing, but that's another story for another day. We will give you the answers. We will give you the honesty. We will give you the extended version of the M&P review. Start holding other people to a higher standard. Maybe we can change how things are done a little bit. There's a lot of talk lately about, is GunTube dying? People have been doing a lot of videos on it. Kind of after we did the video on GunTube is wrecked, kind of a weird coincidence that might have kicked that off. But anyway, if GunTube is dying, if things are changing for the worse, let's try to change it for the better. Thank you to everybody that already watches our channel and likes what we do. And thank you to everybody who in the future is going to watch this testing. It was a whole lot of work. We really appreciate Camera Guy's help, that's for sure. Make sure to thank him in the comments. It's not easy chasing me around like a turkey with my head cut off. But this is big time stuff we do, and we do it for you, the constant viewers. And the occasional viewers too. With that said, thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you in all these other videos. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Possibly your 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. Here we go again. Another Smith & Wesson 10mm. Long back in the day, we had a 10mm video. It was actually our first video with the original M&P 10mm that they put out. I was really excited for that gun. didn't quite work out too perfectly. We have a whole bunch of videos on it. Now we're back again with the 4-inch carry comp, their newest version. So like I said, back in the day, we had some problems. That was more than 4 years ago, I think, 4.5 years ago. We didn't really get along with that gun very well. I always wanted to revisit it. This is the newest version. There's no excuses. Smith & Wesson should have learned from any of their mistakes. And yes, there were problems with that gun, widely reported. It didn't hold up to the M&P line. M&Ps are known to be very reliable. They're duty guns, the 40 caliber, 45 9mm, of course, way back in the day, the 357 SIG, very good guns. This one didn't hold the line. Well, not this one, but its brethren. So I'd like to think we got much better at what we're doing now than we were previously. So I think this testing will be much more complete. I'm not screwing around. I'm not joking around with this stuff, guys. You are going to see the best testing, the most complete testing of this firearm anywhere on the internet. Please, if you're interested in this, subscribe because you don't want to miss it. We are going to have video after video after video, and we're going to release them very quickly. Today, we are going to start with the unboxing, of course, and first shots. But after that, we're rocking and rolling with all kinds of stuff. Check out our previous video where we go ahead and lay out what we're doing. So we've all been through unboxing videos. I'm not dragging this out. I'll tell you, I did clean the gun like they said I was supposed to do, oiled it, put it back in the packaging. I'm going to show it to you like it came to me. So it's in a Performance Center box, not a hard case. They kind of throw around that Performance Center name a lot now, don't they, without giving you too much of anything special. Comes in the typical Smith & Wesson blue bag. Comes with a chamber flag in it. There you go. And then down in the little crevice, like you'll always find, are extra back straps, the lock for the trigger guard, or trigger lock, whatever you call it, and one extra magazine. Still only sending with one extra mag. That stinks. And then you'll have the instruction manual, a sticker, and whatever warnings. That's what you get. All right, so we'll get the factory empty mag out of there, and obviously the chamber is empty because it has a flag, so we're good to go. Check it one more time, and of course, we are safe. So the first thing you're gonna notice about this gun is this big honking hole in the top of the slide. It's a true ported gun. It's ported through the slide and it's ported through the barrel. And right behind that big old honking hole in the slide, we have a fiber optic front sight. And I believe that is a night sight. We will definitely find out for sure because we will be shooting this at night. Stay tuned for that. And then we have the serrated blacked out rear, actually a U-notch sight, which is unusual for Smith & Wesson previously. Their newer guns are doing all kinds of things. But if it is a night sight, I never understand putting blacked out sights behind a front night sight. That just makes no sense to me. But anyway, other than that, we have some other changes to the slide. We have obviously an optics cut on this one. So that's newer to these models of Smith & Wesson that we didn't see on the original 1.0s and 2.0s. And now on this one here, maybe something to do with the Performance Center part of this, is we have different slide serrations. So these are definitely unlike some of the previous generations. And then for comparison, we've brought out some other guns. We have a 1.0, a 2.0, and then this one we're dealing with here today. So the progression of the slide serrations has been simple. They kept them the same from 1.0 to 2.0 on the back. They added small scallops here to the front on the 2.0. And then here we have something totally different on this version. I actually do like these. These are slightly aggressive, but not really. It's very easy to go ahead and do a press check or a slingshot rack from behind. I actually like this pretty good. You'll grab that every time. And while we're here, I'll just show you. There's not much different really between these generations. The 2.0 here and the 2.0 here are utilizing the same backstrap system. The magazines are the same across all three of these guns. Everything is in the same position between these three guns. Not really much has changed. We got trigger differences, of course. We have a bumped out slide release here. Putting them side by side from the top, you can see it a little bit better there. I've never had a problem with the 1.0 or the 2.0 size. This one over here is the same as it would be on the M&P metal over there, and I'm starting to get used to that, so shouldn't be a problem at all. Now that we have the M&P metal out, that does look like it could be the same trigger. I'm not sure if it is, but they're looking very similar. One thing to note, as Smith & Wesson progressed to doing optics cut, they changed how they do their rear sights, so these sights are not interchangeable between the original 1.0, 2.0, and now the new 2.0 and 2.0 metals. If you put them back to back right there, you can see a big difference in how that's set up. All right, back to the star of the show alone. It's just an M&P all the way around. Nothing much different than any other M&P except for some upgraded little slide cuts, the optic cut, of course, different sight, and the porting. And to me, that's a good thing because I really like how Smith & Wesson is already set up. I don't want to see them change very much. And there's the cut in the barrel, not as big as the cut in the slide, but still pretty significant. Magazines hold 15, just like the 40 cal version, so 15 plus 1 for a total of 16. That's pretty significant. And as far as mag compatibility, there have been people who have said you can use the 45 M&P magazines. We tested this before. People have said they're the same. They're actually not the same at the feed lips. They're pretty darn close. We will go ahead and see if we can get this one to run. I'm not sure if it'll be this video, but it'll be one of them. And one thing we are not afraid to address right off the rip is the possibility of malfunctions with this firearm. And trust me, we do have the possible solutions for that if we run into it. We have an increased power recoil spring and an increased power magazine spring. So if we do run into a problem, we'll go through our normal testing, we'll document things, but then we'll revisit after we go ahead and solutionize things. So that's it for the tabletop. Like I said, we're going to be real simple about this. We'll point out some other things on the range if we feel necessary. We'll talk about the trigger and things like that. If you watch the previous video talking about what kind of testing we'll be doing, you'll see that we have a plethora of ammo that will go through this gun. Today we're going to start with Federal Black Pack for our first shots. This is an incomplete box. I'm just trying to burn them up. 180 grain going at a moderate velocity. I can't remember exactly, but we will have the chronograph up. So I'm going to continue to load up 15 plus 1 in every magazine because I want this thing to simulate like it's being carried. We have to know if this thing is going to be reliable from bottom to top feeding on this magazine. And I just have to remind everybody that no, Smith & Wesson did not send me this firearm. They would never send me this firearm. I don't think they like me very much, especially after the first round of testing we did on the other 10mm. So, like always, no BS testing. Let's get out on the range. And real quick before we get out on the range, I just want to point out that the slide, it's not like one of those really nice custom 1911s. You feel the recoil spring binding a little bit in there. It's just a little bit grindier than normal. People go into all the time and they grab guns and like, oh my God, that's smooth as glass. This is not. This is glass with a little bit of oil and sand in it. Just pointing that out. Same thing with the magazine. The magazine was just a little bit rough upon loading. It does load easy enough. You don't need a mag loader or anything like that, at least not in my opinion. You can get that 15th one in there without breaking your thumb, but it's just a little bit grindy on the way down. Hopefully that all smooths itself out. Maybe you'll have to put some dry lube in at some point, or maybe that has something to do with feeding issues if we ever have it. And then real quick, I'll show you a dry fire on the trigger before we actually have ammunition in it. So it's a pretty good reach to get to that blade right there. Take up the blade, get the take up of the actual trigger there. That's a tiny bit plasticky, grindy, but there's that take up. You're at a wall, start pushing through, and there you go. Now reset is right about there. Got another one, reset. It's a positive reset, and it pushes your finger forward to complete the reset. You can go all the way back out there again, but that's what you've got. All right, we are 21 feet off that steel target. I have 15, and then the plus 1 here in my hand. The first thing I want to see is, does this thing inertial load? Because some guns do and some guns don't, and some people consider it a good thing and some people consider it a bad thing. So upon light insertion, no. Give it a little bit more force. No. Let's see if we really smack it good. Nope. So has a pretty strong lock right there. And there we go. We got one loaded. So we're hot with 1. Let me put the plus 1. All right, we're back to 15 plus 1. And let's see how she feels. You good to go, camera guy?
Yep.
All right, shot number 1, M&P 10mm. This has been a long time in the making. I hit high and left, and that's a little that's a little predictable due to Smith & Wesson's sight situation, but let me try again. All right, that's better. Maybe the first one was me. She feels pretty good. I'm going to have to start trying to evaluate, does this compensator actually help things? It's pretty stout, but not bad. This ammo's not very terrible either. Trigger is good enough. I'm sure it'll break in. And yeah, she's not too bad. And locks back after 15 plus 1. That's good. All right, so I smacked her in the center a few times, but I really wandered a lot over here, and that's unusual for me with M&Ps. We'll check that out with accuracy testing more down the road for sure. But I will tell you right now, Smith & Wesson has a horrible habit of not centering one or more of their sights. The front sight, from what I can tell, pretty much looks like it's supposed to be, or it is where it's supposed to be. This rear one, though, I would say that this rear one is definitely off a bit. That could be contributing to what's going on here with my shooting, but we will visit that later. All right, we're gonna load back up again with another 15 plus 1. All right, I'm gonna fire into a piece of wood, but I wanna show you the trigger under recoil. So I also wanna point out that we did have a problem with an M&P trigger before on a shield where it would bind if you pushed it over too hard, too quick before getting it pulled back. This one does not seem to do that. I was playing with it before. So blade, take up, and there we go. Reset was there. I went way past it. There's the actual reset, I believe. Good to go. I'll give it to you one more time. All right, so again, from full up, we have the blade comes back, the take up, wall, and it's just the smallest little like 1 millimeter push. Once you're on that wall, there's a tiny grind, and then it goes. I'd say it's pretty good. So camera guy just pointed out the angle he was just filming at was back here. He said he can feel that comp, giving him some blast and concussion right there. So another thing we're gonna visit about this firearm is, are comps a good idea for self-defense? We've talked about it before, but we're gonna visit how dangerous this can be. In the meantime, I'm gonna finish off that mag. I'm gonna try to get headshots. I'm actually gonna try to get used to this U-notch sight. I don't even know. That went way high and left. All right, I'm leveling off my top sights. I am even height, even light, and I'm definitely shooting high and left. Every time. If I do a 6 o'clock hold, I'll hit it to the left of where I want to be. I can still hit, but... So we've run 32 rounds so far without a malfunction. That's a good start. So camera guy did see that that front sight is off. I'll try to get you some measurements to show it's not zeroed, but that is off. And then I definitely think that the rear sight is off. I'm telling you, Smith & Wesson just has a serious problem with centering their sights. And I just have to point out, that's what you get from the Performance Center. Well, the black pack of 10mm Federal ammo is empty, 32 rounds downrange. That's good enough, I think, for the initial first shots. I'm not going to drag this out too much. We have so many videos coming up. Like I said, make sure you're subscribed if you're interested, but we'll find out if other ammo complies or if this gun complies with other ammo or not. In the meantime, first impressions are, it feels like an M&P, feels like a warm M&P, but you know what? We're used to 357 SIG and 40 caliber on this channel. I carry a 357 SIG constantly, so that's nothing new to me. I've always wanted a 10mm M&P. I knew it wouldn't be that bad. As far as the trigger's good enough for me. It's not binding, so it's much better than a normal 1.0 or 2.0 trigger. I'll take that. And the gun is ergonomic, just like the rest of them. Hasn't malfunctioned yet on us. The sights being just a little bit off always irritates me. It's just a thing with Smith & Wesson, but we'll correct that hopefully soon. And then we're also gonna put a red dot here for real accuracy. So she didn't fall apart yet. She ran, she locked back. She did an inertial reload for those who care. So far, so good, I would say, except for the sights. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next video. I know we'll see you there because you're interested. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Definitely 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the 10mm test series here for the M&P Performance Center Carry Comp. If you want to see our unboxing and first shots, check out the previous video. And if you want to see the explainer video for all the videos we're doing in this series, see the video before that. But for this video, we're going to be going through range ammo reliability testing. We're breaking the range ammo reliability part up into two different videos because there's a lot. The first 6 we have on the table with us today, we have some S&B, some Blazer aluminum, not the brass. So the aluminum can be a little funny. We have some Winchester, we have some Aguila, which can just be junk sometimes in general, and then we have some really good stuff. We have the Sig Sauer. This stuff is awesome. It's one of the best 10mm range ammos out there, no matter what, from a big manufacturer. No matter what you think of SIG, it's really good 10mm ammo. We're gonna get all 6 of these. I had to count in my brain real quick. 6 of them downrange. We're gonna put 15 plus 1 of each one of these ammo through the gun to make sure that plus 1 works with the magazine. We're gonna get the velocities so you know what we're working with there. And if we do have any problems, remember that we will come back at some point with a few fixes if we run into problems. So don't give up on it if something goes a little weird. There have been reports of this thing not feeding certain ammos. So to be super no BS like we always do, and to be, I guess you would say, thorough, we have to go through a bunch of different ammos, including this 6, the next 4, and then we're on to the hotter boutique ammos, I would call it. Double tap, grizzly, underwood. This is gonna be pretty simple. Like I said, 15 plus 1 at 21 feet away from the target. We're just gonna run them. All right, selection number 1 is Winchester White Box Target in Practice 180 grain full metal jacket. All right, 15 plus 1, 21 feet off that target. Hopefully the chronograph picks it up. We got 995.1, so that's definitely some light stuff. 180 grain. 1023.6. And I'm getting a little bit better point of aim, point of impact than I did the last video. Let me actually try to definitely watch my front sight. That's better. We were way to the left and a little high. We're still a touch high, but at least I've gotten closer to the center. We adjusted the rear sight. 1015.1. And it lays them in there for sure. 1020.9, and we're getting a decent group. Let's look real quick. All right, I ran the edge just a little bit, but at least it's more centered than it was before for sure. And she locked back with 15 plus 1. Next ammo. All right, next up will be Aguila, or Aguila, however you say it. 180 grain full metal jacket. Let's go. And I'm keeping 2 hands on the gun, and I'm doing regular pace shooting right now because I want to give it a fair chance. I don't want to induce any limp wrist malfunctions or anything like that. We'll actually do that testing later, but for now I'm just doing steady shooting to make sure she functions under normal conditions. That ammo produces 1070.1, 1098.8, and 1072.4. So nothing super hot there, and we have our first malfunction. I had a good grip on that gun, and darn it, this is 180 grain range ammo. We're not supposed to be having malfunctions. I will say that this is Aguila, and I think I said it like right when we started talking about this, that this could be the ammunition that might be the most garbage, or I made some kind of comment. We have some Aguila, which can just be junk sometimes in general. Now, what happened? We just didn't go fully into battery. I don't know what that's all about. That could be a little bit of a flare on the case mouth right there from an improper crimp, but let's see if she'll keep going. She still should be plenty of lubricated, but that was malfunction number 1. And it doesn't feel bad in the hand at all. I'm shooting a little bit high now, actually, and we have our second malfunction. Now, this is, like I said, 180 grain range ammo. I'm assuming that one didn't go all the way into battery either, so it's just kind of hanging up, but then it went ahead on its own. I'm going to give a really good grip to this gun. So I don't know if it was shooting high or if I was shooting high. I have a glare behind me, but it's probably me on the high shooting. But there we go, a really good grip. Now we have another malfunction. I don't even know how many that is. We'll put a counter up on the screen. We're gonna keep a counter in general. It's only gonna take, well, see, that one took a pretty forceful little push. 1005 coming out of that. We're gonna have to check this ammunition in the chamber checker. Now, some people might attribute that to a weak recoil spring. I'm not sure. Like I said, we'll put that ammo through the chamber checker here in a second. But yeah, we had plenty of malfunctions there. Next ammo. All right, so we're gonna do this in real time here. I haven't touched this box since we just got back from the range. We are fortunate enough to have a 10mm chamber checker. We have this because we are rebuilders of these things right here. I don't wanna say the wrong words and get us in trouble, but we're just gonna see if they pass the kerplunk test in the chamber checker. So as long as this projectile or this cartridge seats down in there properly, we know that they should pass what's called the minimum chamber spec to get in there. So we're gonna dump out a handful right here, and they're all checking one after another. They slip in there easily and they slip right back out. So we shouldn't have a problem with those. Now the next thing we can do, and it's a little bit warm still, but I'm gonna get the barrel out of here and we're gonna actually kerplunk test in the barrel. Okay, so we have our kerplunk test set up here. We have the barrel of the firearm right here. And by the way, this is also a good time to show you that this is a fully supported chamber. There was a comment somewhere I saw about this firearm where somebody said it destroys brass because it's not fully supported. And I say baloney. That's a situation that happens with older generation Glocks, but Smith & Wesson has always been very good about chamber support, in my opinion. They might not always have 100%, but they get pretty darn close. Anyway, that passes the kerplunk test no problem. And I know this is a little bit of a tedious experiment here, but they are sliding in and out with no problem. This shows you that they shouldn't have a problem getting into that firearm under normal reciprocation circumstances. I really don't know what's going on. So Aguila failed for some reason. All right, next up is, like I said, my favorite range ammunition from a major company. This is Sig Sauer 10mm 180 grain full metal jacket. And all of these are the flat nosed or the truncated cone, whatever you want to call it. So same bullet profile we're working with right now. You're gonna see that this stuff through the chronograph is usually on point. And again, 21 feet off the target, 15 plus 1. And I'm gonna take my time for the first couple shots because this is really good ammunition. I bet we'll get total accuracy check on this. We got 1145.8. And yeah, that was a good shot. I had that centered perfectly. My first one wasn't perfect, but 1148.8, 2 shots. That's got the 4-inch barrel in it, keep in mind, with a port or a comp, whatever you call that. 1158, good stuff. And it feels good out of this gun. It's not rocking me too terrible. There we go, we got some good hits there, 1156.4. Let's take a look real quick. So we ran them all, locked back, we ran them pretty accurately, pretty good little groups for that type of shooting, and it's still a little bit left because it didn't get totally centered, but I'd say that's totally acceptable. Let's keep going. All right, still staying with 180 grain. Now we have S&B, and this is another truncated cone full metal jacket. Now this is a very common ammunition. You'll find this stuff all over the place for 10mm, so this is definitely one we need to run through this gun. And you're gonna notice this stuff won't be too hot either. We'll change the plate too. The other one's getting a little bit tired. 10mm beats on them. That was me jerking that trigger a little bit. That was not a good shot for me, but 1012.4, and that felt like baby sauce out of this gun for sure. A little bit more where I needed to be, 1009.2. That is so soft. This feels like 9mm. I don't know if it's the comp or the ammo or what. That is so soft, it's unreal. 1024, yeah, that's nothing. You can see I can double tap that just like it's 9mm, no problem. 1016.0, and it ran. And I kept a strong grip on it, but that recoil was actually pretty minimal between the ammo and the comp. Not too bad. All right, and 180 grain again. I promise we'll switch on the next one, but this is Blazer. This is another one you could really find in a lot of different places. Definitely the ranges if you're just going to shoot, but usually pretty reliable, just not that powerful. Let's give it a go. All right, same procedure, 15 plus 1, 16 rounds of pretty weak sauce. And it went 1080.9. 1051.8 and 1060.3. Ooh, put one over the top. 1071.1. Let's take a look. All right, a little bit of a size group, and one skimmed over the top somewhere right here or here. Actually, I see it right there. I skimmed right there. Error on the shooter's part, but she locked back. She ran them. All right, take a good look at those things. Those are aluminum case. Some of you might not have ever seen those, but Blazer makes a lot of aluminum case ammunition, not like steel case. It has different properties to it. This stuff is weird in some firearms. It can be really weird in high-powered revolvers, but we'll see how it works here. Now, we have changed to a 200 grain projectile. It's still pretty much the same, I would say, profile, but it's a heavier grain weight. So we've changed two things. We went to a heavier round. I'm not sure the powder charge in there. I don't think it's much at all because, of course, it's Blazer. And we've definitely changed how this may react in the chamber with aluminum. This could choke it up. Let's see. And just a warning in general about aluminum case ammunition for anybody wanting to use it in 10 millimeters or test it here on the tubes or whatever. You got to be careful. This doesn't want to function in all firearms. I believe certain firearms, I think delayed blowback could be a problem. You got to watch it. This stuff doesn't play friendly with all 10 millimeters. Just be careful. All right, plus one, and then 15 more. Let's see what kind of velocity we can squeeze here. Oh, wow, 956. What are these, 10 millimeter cowboy loads? 955.3, pathetic. But at least it's feeding, 947.6. Wowzers, guys, that's horrible, but whatever. And I slowed down a little bit on that one because I don't like missing, but 958.9, she did it. And between all those rounds, here's where we landed, and then that one that skimmed on top. So she ran the aluminum. That's a good deal. People end up with it just randomly. Sometimes they don't even know they're buying aluminum. They get home and they're like, what is this garbage? But it ran them. And when I say people will say it's garbage, I don't mean that it's garbage. This is a 44 special 200 grain gold dot, and this is what I have on my hip right now for personal defense. So I don't think it's garbage. I just think people might say, what is that? All right, there we go. 6 ammos tested, 16 plus 1. I'd say that's pretty thorough. I'm not going to run the whole box through it. We have other firearms to put this through. Stay tuned. That's a secret for now, but this is the one that gave us a problem. So Aguila, we will investigate this situation, but for now, we're going to put it on hold. But I'd say we did pretty good with the rest of the stuff. Some of it was baby saws. Some of it was pretty good. And we ran the aluminum case ammunition. Now, definitely don't miss the next test because we're breaking out 4 more range ammos. It's only 4 in the next round, but it's a good selection. We have very low power, I'm sure, federal stuff here. But Magtech makes some pretty good ammo, I think, for 10 millimeter, unless I'm thinking wrong. That'll probably be decently powered, unless that's Fiocchi I'm thinking. But then we have 10 millimeter 200 grain from Blazer, or PMC bronze. Now, that's not usual that I'm seeing 200 grain range ammo, so I thought that was a cool one to pick up. And as long as we're doing federal normal stuff, let's try this federal Syntech that's got a polymer coated bullet, and it might give us a feeding issue. It might throw some snot out of the comp. I'm not sure, but we'll check it out. So thank you for watching this video. We'll see you tomorrow for the next video. Stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Definitely 10 millimeter. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10 millimeter testing continued today with the Smith Wesson Performance Center Carry Comp. So we have 4 more offerings today. Yesterday we went through 6 offerings. This is range ammo reliability testing part 2. Today we have a Magtech 180 grain that I think is a warmer loading, and then we have a 200 grain PMC bronze under that. That's a little unusual to see a 200 grain range loading from a bigger manufacturer. Then we have a Federal 180 grain loading that is probably going to be pretty weak. It's going to be that warm 40 area. And then we have a Federal offering again, but that is a Syntech, and that is a 205 grain polymer coated or high-tech coated or just powder coated, whatever you want to call it, round. So we'll see how the powder coating goes through with reliability, of course, but if it does anything weird with the porting too, or the comp. Just like yesterday, we're gonna run 15 plus 1, so we get a full loading to go through this gun, make sure the magazine can handle it, the recoil spring, all that, especially when we get into the heavier weights like the 200 grain stuff. Check out yesterday's testing. We did have a little bit of a hiccup with one of those ammunitions, and with that hiccup and any other hiccups we may find during our testing series, we will address them with the proper possible fixes. We're just going to be shooting steel. I have no plan for this other than get 16 plus 1 of these 4 ammunitions through this gun with no malfunctions. That would be great. let's get to shooting. All right, first up will be Federal 180 grain. That is a Full Metal Jacket flat nose. And like I said, this will probably be weak. All right, including the 10 rounds that were used to go ahead and get these sights centered a little bit better, and the ones we used the other day, we have 138 rounds downrange, 3 malfunctions. Let's see if we can get another 16 to go down. Federal absolute weak sauce at 1078.9. That's better than what we saw to some other stuff. 1081.4. Feels very light in the hand, of course. They all ran 1047.5. Let's take a look. Not a bad little group. I'm not trying to shoot super precision right now, and my sight is a little bit off, like I said, but I'm trying to keep a good grip on the gun so that I don't induce any kind of malfunction, but pretty darn acceptable. Let's move to the next one. All right, next up is MagTech 180 grain, Full Metal Jacket flat point, like we've been doing a lot of. This one should be a little bit hotter if I can remember correctly. All right, +1, 15. I jerked that shot a little bit. 1128.9. So yeah, warmer than some of that other stuff. 1159.3. Not as warm as it could be, but and it ran them. And I almost really pulled a few off there, but we still got them. All right, next up will be PMC Bronze 200 grain. We're switching up the grain weight a little bit. Let's see what kind of power this produces. I'm not sure at all about this one. And they call that one a Full Metal Jacket truncated cone. And we'll give the other target a break, switch it up a little bit. There's our +1. Here's our 15. Remember, we got 200 grains on this for the velocity, and 962.1. All right, 994.0. A lot of you guys are not going to be happy with that. I am grouping pretty good with it, but it's baby stuff. It's 9mm for sure, so 968.2. Whew, total 9mm stuff. Let's go take a look. All right, I guess we have to call it 40 caliber stuff, but I only came out of the center twice, and that wasn't that bad. That's the size of the center, and that was me taking double, so not even used to this gun yet. That's pretty soft shooting stuff. But hey, it's some ammo. Maybe you won't be able to find anything else, and it ran them. All right, Federal Syntech range, 205 grain. Like I said, it's a polymer coated. That's a weird one. Let's put red on red. All right, the +1. Okay, +1 fed. 15 more. And let's see if this is loaded as hot as all the other Federal cowboy loads. 1032.9, so I'm actually proud of them. They put gunpowder in this one. I mean, it's nothing like we want from 10mm, but at least it's not in the 900s. We got 1064.9. It shoots pretty good, point of aim, point of impact. Doesn't feel bad out of this gun. It ran them. I have to hold on a little harder with that one, surprisingly for a Federal ammo, but let's go take a look. All right, I came out twice, but I kept the rest in there, and that was the honest cadence that I felt comfortable shooting this gun. If that tells you anything about that kind of ammo through this ported gun, that was my cadence to keep it on the plate. Alrighty, there's some more information, and that information is this stuff all works. That's pretty good. This stuff is a little bit warm, this stuff is a little bit heavy, this stuff's a little bit normal, and this stuff's a little bit heavy and warm. So cool variety that we put through it, and I'm actually, to tell you the truth, I don't get impressed, so I'm not impressed, but I'm not dissatisfied with this Federal Syntech. It ran, and I don't know about how clean it runs through the gun or anything like that, but it's a heavier weight ammunition, and it is a little bit more stout than this type of stuff, so a little bit more pricey too. But if you could find it, I wouldn't be afraid to run it as a good substitute for real 10mm range ammo. And why I say that is, though, even though it's not loaded super hot, it gives you a little bit of a recoil to deal with. So you saw I had to slow down on that plate a little bit, and it's because of the recoil. So it's a good training aid at least. And for those of you that are paying attention and you're gonna try to call me out that I'm doing something funny with editing, I am wearing different clothes from when I'm shooting to when I'm talking to you, because it's hot as heck out today and I don't wanna look like a sweaty pig. So I'm dressing like this to talk to you, and then I put on a sweaty shirt to go shoot. Somebody will call me out and say that I'm editing this to a bunch of BS. But this is no BS testing like you're always gonna get. Stay tuned, we have so much more testing. We're moving on to some hotter ammunition, some boutique ammo from Double Tap, Underwood, and Grizzly. That's gonna be interesting because that's when we might seriously get some choking out of this pistol. We're also gonna do accuracy testing with the iron sights, and despite them being off a little bit, we'll at least get grouping. And then we're gonna put a red dot and we're gonna get good accuracy testing. And that's not where it stops. This is a totally complete series. Like I told you before, this is the best 10mm Performance Center carry comp testing that will ever be on YouTube, ever. Bet on it. With that said, we'll see you tomorrow for another video. Thank you for watching this video. And until we see you tomorrow, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Definitely 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. Today we have the Smith Wesson M&P Performance Center carry comp out again. We've been doing a lot of testing with this gun. Check out our playlist. It's getting extensive and it's going to get even longer. We're testing this thing and putting out a video every day of the week for a couple weeks now with this. So check out yesterday's video, the day before that, and check out tomorrow's video. This is going to keep going. Today we are on defensive ammo, or hotter ammo, boutique ammo. You know, the stuff that we really like in 10mm. Today we have an offering from Underwood. This is not like the range ammo we've been testing. This is real 10mm. Everybody knows that this stuff is loaded really well. I have 3 different options today for us. I have 2 that are hard cast, 200 grain and 220 grain. That has given the original M&P 10mm a problem for us before, way back in the old video, the original testing we did on this firearm like 4.5 some years ago. We also have a very popular one from Underwood that is a 155 grain XTP loading. It's a very good round. I actually carry it for defense quite often. I carry both of these, well, not the 220 so often, but the 200 grain and the 155 grain, I'll actually carry them in the same mag, but that's a story for a different day. I really think this ammunition is some good stuff. I'm hoping it performs in this gun. I'm hoping Smith & Wesson has things figured out. If not, we might have... I just totally dropped that on the ground. We might have a couple fixes. These are some of the things that might fix this if this thing happens to go wrong. So we can revisit later if we have problems. We will be testing a couple different hot ammos of these types, starting with Underwood. But here's the protocol for this testing. We're gonna go 15+1 in a magazine, just like we would carry for defense. No reason to cheat this testing and run 5 rounds. We wanna know what happens when we put all the weight of those hard casts in this magazine and compress the normal magazine spring in there. And then we just wanna know what a good defensive load would be like, loaded full to the max +1. We don't wanna cheat this test at all. Here's the thing though, if we run into a problem like we kinda suspect we might with this firearm, trust me, it's not going to be the ammo's fault. It's going to be this gun's fault. I can guarantee you that. And if that's the case, we stop testing right then and there, because there's no reason to waste ammo. This stuff is not cheap. It's not just available everywhere. We can't get it in vending machines yet. But we'll change whatever we might have to possibly solve that and readdress that in a later video. But for now, I would definitely like to thank Underwood. They helped us out. I reached out to them and asked them if they wanted to be a part of this test, and they said absolutely. So awesome on them. Thank you, Underwood, for that. With all that explained, let's not drag this out. Let's get to shooting. All right, here we go. We're starting with a 155 grain going at 1,500 feet per second. I'm not sure what barrel length, but we do have a 4-inch barrel here with a comp, so I'm sure it's not going to hit that. It should get pretty close. We got XTP JHP. That should be a very familiar looking hollow point. It's loaded by Underwood very well, and it's actually a very, very good performer. That is why I carry it often. All right, let's get the +1 in there first, and I'm gonna go ahead and smack this magazine. And now that we've got 202 rounds, I believe, through this gun, with only 3 malfunctions so far, now we're starting to get the inertial loading effect. 1 in the chamber, 15 in the mag. And that is no joke ammunition, 1380.9. 1404.9. Feels pretty good through the gun, but it is warm. I'm shooting a little high and left because the sights are not centered properly. I worked on them a little bit, but not enough. 1374.4. Wow, that is some warm stuff. 1371, and now I'm gonna try to go ahead and shoot at a cadence. Man, that is rocking my target and it's rocking my hands. These grips are a little aggressive. I like the 1.0 grips myself. If I keep this thing around, which I might, it's doing pretty good. It ran all that. I would go ahead and change it out for the 1.0 backstrap and sand these down just a hair, the ones that you can't change, because I mean, I'm not saying I did that. Don't get me on that one, the tubes. But that's what I would do because, man, that does bite the hand with some good ammunition or some stronger ammunition. Let's go take a look real quick. And yes, I am shooting left, I said, because my sights aren't centered. We'll revisit accuracy with a red dot and after I move the irons a little bit more. But I'm aiming center right here just for consistency on the group size. That's not too bad at that speed for that warm of ammo. I mean, that is some tough stuff. Let's move on to some hard cast. And just because I said it was biting me, now I have to explain myself a little bit. I'm not a sissy. I work for a living. My hands are calloused all over the place. I definitely don't have girly hands. And actually, this thing is biting me just a little bit. If I go ahead and give a really good grip, somehow, some way, this thing is pinching me just a little bit. I don't know how, but it is. No big deal, but I'm just showing you. I'm definitely not a sissy about this, but this grip texture is, I just don't like it as much as the 1.0s. All right, on to the one that could give us trouble if Smith & Wesson didn't change something from the previous iterations of this gun. We are at the Underwood Hardcast Flat Nose, 200 grain, traveling at 1,250 feet per second out of whatever test gun. We have that black cherry coating on this one. They used to be red, now they're this black cherry color. It's kind of like a dark purple. Let's see how this stuff runs. I do like this stuff a lot. This is some really good breakthrough some stuff ammunition. You're gonna want this if you're carrying it in the woods for hardcast bear defense. So this one is a really important one for anybody liking 10mm. They've just got to get this one to run in their gun. Let's see how it does. All right, we got our +1 and then our 15. We do not BS the testing here. As you can see, I'm gonna actually kind of go for a few headshots, even though might have to Kentucky windage it a little bit. I sure do. 1168.1, and let's go ahead and bring the camera here real quick. This is somehow what's getting me right here. I'm not getting a slide bite. I'm just getting something happening here, and it's kind of just tearing into my finger a little bit. It could be me. I usually use the bigger backstrap, so maybe if I actually put the backstrap I wanted on the gun, that wouldn't happen. But that's something I can work on in the future. You good, camera guy?
Yep.
All right. All right, we got 1177.2. That's no joke. And it feels really good out of this gun, actually. Shooting left with it, because that's where the sights are. 1175.9. Oh, that was about as that's about as fast as I felt comfortable shooting that particular load. It locked open. That is awesome. Good deal. The last shot was 1170. Let's go take a look at the target. All right, so this is when I was playing around trying to get headshots here. I was aiming here, here, here to get here, 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 and then I just let them rip right here. Not too bad, and I'm telling you, the stuff is bitey. I got sweat on my hands, sorry, but the stuff is bitey. It's getting me. I'm gonna change that backstrap eventually, but for now, we're just gonna continue. Next one, 220 grain. All right, we've moved it up 20 grains to 220 grains, going at 1,200 feet per second. Ouch. Now this gun will do what it does as far as velocity, but it's not gonna be a slouch, I'm sure. You're trading around a few things. When you increase the weight of the projectile, you lose a little bit of velocity, but supposedly you could get a little bit more penetration with that round. It's just a personal preference between the 200 and 220, but let's see how this gun likes the 220. All right, 15 plus 1 of the 220. Downrange, let's see what kind of velocity we get now. That shoots a little bit softer. That's a little nicer in the hand. 1117.6. 1133.6, and still pretty controllable out of this gun. Stout, still tearing me up, but that's my fault for not changing the back strap. 1112.2. And we have busted a plate. Good job. Hard cast ammunition is so hard on those targets. 1194.4. Let's go take a look. So 10mm is going to do what it's going to do. We didn't really come out of the center circle too bad. We beat it up pretty good. We beat it up enough to at least make it come apart. Maybe we didn't ruin it. Maybe I just got to put it back together. Pretty awesome performance. Good enough accuracy for my shooting speed. That was going pretty quick for such a recoily ammunition, but very good deal. It ran them both, locked back. We're off to a much better start with this type of ammunition from Smith & Wesson on this iteration. All right, there you have it. I don't think we can ask for anything more. It ran, and that was a problem last time. These specific ammos, at least one of them. So good deal. We're doing good progress now. We've only had a couple malfunctions with one ammo. Check back on that range ammo test for that one. We're going to be moving forward with more of the hot stuff and hand loads and all kinds of cool stuff, including maybe some 40 Smith & Wesson that they always say you're not supposed to do, but in a pinch. Anyway, this is not a shill piece. This is not a promotion. This is nothing like that. We are no BS testing on the Turkey's opinion. So again, we appreciate Underwood. We're not shilling for them at all. With that said, thank you for watching this testing. Stay tuned for testing tomorrow and look back on the playlist because we have a whole bunch more. I'm glad we didn't have to go here yet with the possible fixes. We're good so far. Again, thank you for watching today. Leave a comment. Let us know how you think this testing is going so far. Is this surprising you? Is this what you've had experience with? Do you have this gun? How's it running for you? Until next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. 10mm, of course. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We have the Smith & Wesson Performance Center carry comp out again. We've been doing a lot of testing with it. Check out the playlist. It's pretty extensive so far. Now, a lot of you that watch the channel often know that I'm not too sure about how I feel about comps. I have a few questions about if they are a good idea for carry or not. As far as target shooting competition, just for fun on the range, things like that, no problem, of course. But as an actual carry item, I'm not too sure. And I also told you guys that I would be testing this theory just a little bit with this particular gun. That's why it's part of this test series. I've never had a compensated gun like this before as far as a carry gun, so why not try it with this? I'm trying to decide if I want to keep this gun or not. So this will be very simple testing. I'm going to figure out how much stuff comes out of this comp and blasts upward. The reason I'm concerned about that is because if you ever use a defensive firearm like this in a situation where you need it, you might have a very close retained shot. A shot from retention might be as close as this if you're just drawing and getting right up underneath your own armpit pretty much. Well, where is that? I'm not going to print camera guy here. Not print, muzzle. But anyway, he moved out of the camera, so now I can. So if I were to pull this back and maybe shoot from retention like this, man, that porting is going at least right across the front of my face. That could be really bad for your eyes. If you're angled like this, it's definitely, I'm looking straight down at the rifling of this barrel right here. Not a good situation. It could be a contact shot for any number of reasons that you have to get very close. You could be in a wrestling match with somebody. And actually, we've heard about firearms discharging unintentionally sometimes, and people who appendix carry, in my opinion, are taking a huge risk. If you don't go ahead and nail that bad artery, that big pumper that's in your leg, if anything else, could you imagine this comp going off somewhere it's not supposed to be, down the front of your pants? So I just want to know, what is this thing actually going to fling out? I know what ports do, and I know what brakes do. We have a 500 Bushwhacker. I've experienced things coming out of the side of that pretty much hand cannon, and actually sometimes a lot of gas, flame, and little particulate stuff can come out of there. I'm assuming this is absolutely no different. Now, it could be a little bit ammunition dependent on how much stuff actually comes out of there. That's why we have a few different ammos here, including some of my hand loads. So I'm not going to go through the whole plethora of ammunition, but we're going to go through a few, and we have a few different test mediums. This may look a little weird. I have a couple apples. That's a little bit fleshy and has some meaty juice in the middle of it. We'll see how that reacts with a comp. And then we have a few tissue rolls where maybe that's a little bit sturdier. I can lay that across the top. I don't dare actually put this across the muzzle or over the muzzle. That would be bad. I might be breaking a law. And then I have paper plates. That should show us a little bit if we just hold it right above. We can see what kind of stuff stains that. And then I have this little contraption. It's basically an Aldi's box with some paper towel in it. And I'm saving that for one particular ammunition, the Fort Scott, that we know, if you've been watching our testing, we know that this stuff, tumble upon impact, that can throw some serious flame. I'm wondering how much flame will react with this paper towel we've set up in here. So, testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, to start out with, I've loaded up just basic range ammo. I have a 180 grain bullet there with some tight group, and we'll just see how that behaves. I'm gonna lay this right over, I'm gonna lay it flush with the front, so it'll only be right there. I'm not gonna extend past the muzzle or anything. I'm just trying to catch what comes out of that comp. I'm gonna fire into the ground. Camera guy, you good to go?
Yep.
It yanked that thing right out of my hand. And yep, that definitely gave some distortion to that cardboard. Let's go ahead and try to lay a paper plate on top of that thing and see what happens. You ready, camera guy?
Yep.
Oh, wow. So that's what's coming through the port, and that is with my light range ammo. This is interesting so far. Let's pick a different ammo and see what happens. That was actually 2 paper plates. Wow, I stacked them. Uh-oh. We might have a... People love to shoot things with paper plates. We might have a comp versus paper plates test here coming up. All right, we're skipping the medium stuff. We're going straight to the top. You guys know what these are. These are 155 grain XTPs loaded with Max Blue Dot. And these things are breathing fire in general out of a normal gun, really breathing fire out of this gun. All right, we got to start in order. All right, so we're going to lay our tube of, well, our cardboard tube above there. And tell me when you are ready, camera guy.
You're good.
Well, let me make sure I'm ready. Okay, I think I'm good. This thing's going to rip out of my hand again. You good?
Yep.
Wow. All right, you saw it. Hopefully I can slow that down a little bit for you. But yeah, completely blew the top off that. That's confetti laying all over the place. We have another round in there. And I will lay the paper plate in a fair place right there. Probably just blow the edge off of it. Gotta make sure I don't hit myself in the thumb. All right, good to go?
Yep.
There you go. That is no joke. All right, I have one of these Fort Scott 125 grainers left. You can see what a spent projectile looks like. It's just a solid copper made to tumble upon impact. This thing's, man, this thing throws some serious flame. So we'll load that one last one up and let's go to our cardboard contraption. Okay, so hopefully you guys have a good angle there. Here's about where I'm gonna hold this gun. It's gonna recoil up like that, but we're gonna have the ejection from that comp go straight up and around. We'll maybe get to see a little bit of a radius. So gun right about there. You got a good angle, camera guy?
Yep.
Ooh, wow. All right, so it didn't leave black stuff all over the paper like I thought it would, but it definitely split the tape that was holding that box together, ripped a little bit of stuff. Again, that's about, or let me hold it the right way. That's about where the gun was standing off. So I don't know, 8, maybe 9 inches away. And it had the force to go ahead and split that cardboard or tape off that cardboard. Definitely not as bad as being right on top of it, but still doesn't look very desirable. All right, now we have loaded up a PMC Bronze 200 grain. That's gonna go off first. And then after that, a 10mm full metal jacket from S&P 180 grain. We're gonna set the apples on these ones. All right, camera guy says we're ready. I'm gonna pull the trigger and let's see what happens. Ooh. There we go, applesauce. And there we go. There's where our victim apple totally decapitated the apple. Split that thing right in half. That does not look fun. let's go ahead and hit the other one. I'm sure you guys saw that in slow motion. The gun's due for a cleaning anyway. That's why we didn't have any problem doing that today. But yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, camera guy says he's ready. So here is shot number 2. Ooh. That one seemed to splatter a little bit more. Crack that thing right in half again, and yep, there you go. It's definitely mushy too. Ooh, it like kind of like, it gave it a whole soft edge to it, so it didn't blow apart, but it really softened it up. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a whole circle of apple about 10 feet off from the center all the way around. One big circle of apple chunks. And there's an apple chunk that's about 15, 20 feet away from where we shot it. That could be your fingertip. So whatever you guys do, be careful, press check, and at the range, do not screw around and get your fingers up where anywhere near that. That looks worse than a cylinder gap for sure. Well, there you go. Smith & Wesson 10mm carry comp applesauce test. And the cardboard test as a reminder to keep all of your skin away from this thing. And I would keep your eyes away from it too. And as far as carrying this thing, keeping this thing as an actual defensive handgun, that's probably going to be the line that I don't know if I can handle right there. Is what could this do if I had to shoot it from retention? It says in the user manual, don't shoot it from retention under any circumstances. So they're marketing a carry comp gun, but you're not supposed to use it in certain defensive situations. Not an ideal situation there. It was a fun test to make. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you at the next video. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Maybe a 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. Today we are with the Smith & Wesson Performance Center Carry Comp again. Pretty cool firearm so far. We're doing well in our testing, just a few little hiccups, but we're going to keep going forward. We're not going to go easy on this thing. We're going to have a pretty significant playlist. I would check out the playlist already, and I would stay tuned for more testing in the future. We're talking weeks worth of testing. We're trying to upload a video on this thing every day. We're bringing you all the information. Today we're on the Grizzly Ammunition Company. We have the 200 and 220 grain hardcast and the 200 grain vaporizer jacketed hollow point. Now, Grizzly makes some pretty stout ammunition. This is definitely woods ammunition, defense ammunition, real 10mm. We're testing real 10mm, we're testing range ammo, we're testing all kinds of stuff, hand loads, whatever. But this kind of stuff is essential for 10mm. If it can eat the baby saw stuff, then fine. It can eat the hot 40, but we need it to run this kind of stuff in case anybody wants to use it. Now, as we test this ammunition, if we run into any hiccups with this type of ammo, or any ammo in reality, we're going to stop and we're going to possibly address that. We have the ability, we have the technology on hand, but we don't want to use it unless we have to. If we run into a problem, we'll stop, readdress. No reason to waste ammo. Hopefully we don't have a problem. Now, Grizzly did not send this ammunition. Who actually funded this was the Patreons and the channel members. Thank you for that. I dug out of that fund. With that said, you'll always get honest, no BS testing here. Let's get it going. So first up is going to be the 200 grain jacketed hollow point Kodiak bullet, traveling at an estimated or advertised velocity of 1250. We have 15+1 loaded because we are not screwing around. We want to make sure that this heavy stuff feeds with this recoil spring, magazine spring, everything set up. And then that's some pretty good slide velocity we're going to get out of this pretty too. So we'll see. All right, we have 15+1 because we don't screw around, like I said. Let's see how close we can get to that 1250. Also, if you've been watching these videos, you notice I was getting bit by the last ammunition. Now I have a different back strap to prevent that. All right, here we go. Good hit, 1111.1. Feels pretty good out of this gun. Still getting me just a little bit back here. That back strap didn't change much. 1141.7. But it's actually not too bad out of the gun as far as recoil. Last shot was 1155.2. And they all went through. Lock back, 1159.7. Let's go take a look. Came out of the circle a couple times, but for the most part, got him in there. The gun is shooting a little bit left to me, or for me, because these sights are not centered perfectly. I got to work on that. Just don't have time today. All right, sticking with 200 grains, but we're switching over to the Hammerhead hardcast flat point. That is a pretty cool looking black powder coated bullet. Advertised velocity of 1250 out of I'm not sure how long of a barrel. All right, let's do a +1 and let's check on that inertial loading thing. Still takes a pretty good bump. Of course, I didn't let that slot or magazine run all the way in there. Oops, we got to get rid of that one and put the other 15. All right, let's see where we get on velocity with this one. I came out of the circle on that one, actually. 1186.9. Yeah, it's shooting a little bit high for me right there. The 220 grain rounds, 1143.1. And 1169. And 1167. Ooh. Almost missed one in there. Or I might have actually missed one. But they all ran. We busted the target again, but I totally almost missed one. Let's go look. All right. So I got a little bit speedy with that amount of recoil, and I went right there. So still nailed the torso. I don't know if I actually missed the target or not at all, but got a little bit wilder. That's, of course, just my shooting, but busted the bolt off again. We'll have to fix that one more time. All right, up next is the 220 grain hammerhead hard cast flat point. We are going at a velocity advertised of 1,200 feet per second on that one. We'll put that to the test. We'll see if it functions. This is a little bit heavier. This is where I start getting worried about this firearm, but we'll see how it goes. All right, target repaired, +1, 15. Let's see what we get. And 1065.9. I'm shooting high and left again. 1067. These sights need to be centered, but I just don't have time to be messing with them. I'm going to try really hard to get a center shot by actually aiming at it, and nope, shooting high left. I put one on top of the other, but 1046.7. 1061.4. 1066.7. It's about as fast as I can go with the recoil of that particular round. There we go. We lock back. We're doing good. 220. Yay. We've done that twice now with 220 grain ammunitions, and it has worked. It's previously choked the other iterations of this firearm up, but now we've got it, I think. 1067.0. Let's take a look. Grouping just where it's been grouping all day, a little bit to the left, but we kept a lot of them in there, a few out of the circle. I'm starting to actually fatigue today. I've been shooting a lot today, so not too bad. It's not the gun's fault, it's the shooter. But the basic, or the bottom line is we're basically running everything we put through it so far, except for one target ammunition in all this testing. We're doing pretty good. She's getting a little dirty up here. We've cleaned her once, but that's warm. All right, another awesome test in the books. This is no joke ammunition right here. This is what you want for woods defense, this hard cast stuff. That's why I said this has to run through this firearm. We're doing really good. Hopefully we keep doing good with this firearm. No joke, no BS testing. We're putting it through its paces, and it's actually holding up this time. Where are they? They're laying around here somewhere. No use. Man, I'm launching things. Recovered. No use for these things yet. Stay tuned for even more hot ammo testing. We're not done with this, and we got, like I said, all kinds of different testing, hand loads, and just weird stuff you might not even expect from us. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, comment, leave us know what you think about this stuff, this testing, this ammo, this whatever. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you tomorrow at the next video, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. 10mm, of course. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We're back again with the Smith Wesson Performance Center 10mm carry comp. We've been testing the crap out of this gun. Check out the playlist. We're on to some weird testing here now, and one of those things that most people don't really think about doing when they think about doing testing, and I don't understand this, but it's testing their firearms at night. Now, I think it's important with a normal firearm, not necessarily with your range ammo. You can practice at night. That's always a good idea. But to know what your defensive ammo does at night, how loud to the eyes it gets. We know it's loud to the ears, but how loud in the face is it? Is it super bright, super flashy? Does it throw a lot of sparks? What does it do? I think that's really important to know what it does. And we have a carry comp here. So now I'm really interested to know what some ammunition does at night when we're in the total darkness, because there's a lot of things our eyes don't see during the day. But at night, holy crap, can things fly out of a barrel, and we catch it in a totally different perspective. We have a lot of videos up for our normal ammo test series where we go ahead and test our defensive ammos that we normally test throughout the series. We test them at night every now and then. The videos aren't super popular. Again, I don't know why. I think it's really important. We're just going to put together a collection of ammo, nothing specific. It's not necessarily the stuff we've been using for testing. It could be some of it, but we're just going to do like 2 rounds of a whole bunch of different ammos, including some range ammo to start out and just get a baseline. I have some 200 grain Full Metal Jacket flat points that are loaded with tight group. It's a very common powder and it's not flash suppressed. Some of these defensive ammos though are flash suppressed, or at least they say they are. Now we have a kind of a shorter barrel. It's a 4-inch. It's not a 5-inch 1911 or anything like that, but we have this comp on here. This comp is probably going to throw fire, flame, and whatever straight up like this direction. I would say in front of your face. I got a certain downrange area I got to go right now, but in front of your face. Now, I've always been concerned about comped firearms because if you carry them for defense and you ever have to do a retained shot or a contact shot or somebody's on top of you, whatever you want to call it, if you have to do a shot and that port is anywhere towards your face, you're probably going to have a little bit of a problem with your eyeballs or more. So I don't really necessarily like comped firearms for that reason. I'm trying this one out because I'm trying to give it an honest go as far as a comped firearm. But I think doing this testing at night is really going to expose a lot about what really comes out of this barrel and do we want this in our face. Now we are going to do another video. It's going to come up right after this one, probably in the order of playlist. We're going to do another video showing what this contact or getting close to contact distance of this port could do to certain items, maybe trying to represent flesh. But this will just give you a visual of what's actually coming out of there as far as gases, fire, flame, sparks, or whatever. So with that said, we're going to load up a couple rounds of a whole bunch of different ammos. We're going to fill up a magazine and we're going to wait for it to get dark. I'll put the ammo up on screen as we go through it so you know what we're shooting, and we're just going to see what happens. All right, all this will be up in the corner, but I want to give you a visual real fast before we get started. 2 projectiles from each of these boxes. We have my hand loads, 200 grain projectile with tight group behind it, totally not flash suppressed whatsoever, I don't think. And then we have PMC bronze, 200 grain projectile, range ammo. We have MagTech with kind of a bulk jacketed hollow point. We have another bulk jacketed hollow point from S&B. We have Fort Scott munition, tumble upon impact. We have Sig Sauer, that's the 180 grain elite defense. And then we have backcountry defense, which if you're gonna fight in the woods at night with a bear, maybe we want that to be flash suppressed. And then we have Federal Punch, which is a personal defense ammunition. And they will be fired in that order. All right, first 2 are going to be my hand loads. Here we go. Significant little fireball. Next one is going to be PMC. That's flashy. Wow. Next one is going to be MagTech. The bugs are eating me up. Now we have the S&B again, or for the first time maybe. Ooh. That's a different kind of flash. After that we have FS. I don't even remember what that is supposed to be. Oh, Fort Scott, that's what that is. Wow, that's out of control. Holy moly. The next one is going to be SIG, which if I can remember properly, I think is okay. It's on the medium side. And after that, we have the Hornady Backcountry. So if we're in the woods and we have to shoot at a bear, that's what you get. That's not bad, actually. And then after that, we have the Federal Punch. That's what that is, Federal Punch. And that's not that bad either. All right, and that lock back, that mixture of ammo, that's just another 16 round or 15 plus 1 round test. Awesome deal. They all made it where they're supposed to. You saw what you saw. There you go. Well, that should have been interesting. At least I hope it was, because we haven't even done it yet, but I got to do this outro part in the light. Remember, check out the playlist. There's a whole bunch of videos up and more videos coming. Check out our video tomorrow. Hope to see you then. Thank you for watching this video, and until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Maybe your 10 millimeters. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10 millimeter time again. Performance Center carry comp from Smith & Wesson, and it is double tap day. Yep, double tap gets its own day because this is no joke. We are running hot ammunition through this gun. We've done it with a couple other brands so far, but we are definitely putting this gun to the test. We're not letting anything slip by us with this 10 millimeter. Now, we already have some experience with a Smith & Wesson 10 millimeter choking up previously on certain ammos. We had the uncomped version of this firearm when it first came out years ago. Definitely had some problems, and we weren't the only ones that had problems. Other people did too. A lot of people experience problems with hot or heavy ammunition, sometimes the hot and heavy. I know that sounds weird, but let's say a hot loaded hard cast, heavier grain weight type of ammo would give this gun, not this gun, but those other guns a little bit of a problem. Certain people did certain things to alleviate those problems, and I think Smith & Wesson might have taken a few cues and changed a thing or two around with maybe magazine spring strength or recoil spring, something or another. Maybe, maybe not. But that's why we're doing this testing. We're trying to figure this all out right now. And that's why we're going through all these hot and heavy ammunitions. We're giving you complete testing. Now, I reached out to Double Tap and asked if they wanted to send any of their heavy hard cast offerings and another hot defensive ammunition, and they said absolutely. They wanted to be part of this testing. They want to see how it works just like the rest of us. So awesome on Double Tap. Thank you for that. If we do experience any problems, we have a couple possible fixes as far as springs, but we'll document the problem if we have it and then make a separate video with the corrections if need be. She's been doing really good so far. You guys that have been watching the testing, you guys know what I mean. She's done much better compared to some of the other versions of this gun. Check out the playlist if you haven't seen the testing we're talking about. This is going to be just like all the other testing. We're going to put 15 plus 1 in the magazine, and we're going to run it on steel. We have 3 different versions of ammo. We have double tap 200 grain hard cast solid, and then we have an interesting one, a 230 grain hard cast solid from Double Tap. So the 230 grain is kind of pushing that boundary of big projectile stuffed in that case and heavy projectile. 230 grain is usually associated with 45, but this is 10 millimeter. And I'll be honest, if it chokes on anything, I think it might be this one, just due to the amount of weight that will be stacked up in the magazine. But hopefully she does good because she's been doing good so far. And I bet a lot of you would want to carry that specific ammo with you if you ever take this gun in the woods. I mean, it's got a bear right there on the box. And the defensive ammunition choice is 180 grain bonded defense. Pretty mean bullet. We want to know if that thing functions in here because it's not only bear defense, sometimes we load jacketed hollow points for other critter defense. Heck, sometimes you might load all 3 of these in a magazine. In 10 millimeter specifically, I'm a very big fan of starting with hollow points and then progressing to more pokey type of bullets, like hardcast. So enough talking, let's get loaded up and get to shooting. All right, we're gonna start with the 10 millimeter 180 grain bonded defense. Should be going about 1,300 feet per second out of a 5-inch barrel, but this is a 4-inch barrel, mean looking deep hollow point. It actually has a step in there. It's like a 2-step hollow point. So we're gonna do the 15, and then we're gonna do the plus 1. I'm not sure if we have this 180 grain bonded defense round in the 10 millimeter test series yet. If it is, it'll be up here. If not, we'll add it soon. With that said, let's see if she runs 15 plus 1. I better turn my dot up a little bit. Also, we're going to be using this ammo kind of to test this dot. I mounted it totally properly. There's reports of dots flying off of these guns. Hopefully it stays in place, but if anything's going to rock it a little bit, it'll be this. That actually feels really good, and I'm just paused there for a second because I see 2 spots on the target out there. 1166.4. I gotta go look at something. That really confused me. I hit here and I splashed down here and it hit a dent. I thought I had 2 shots at first. All right, let's try to do that again. All right, just 1 hole that time. 1175.5, and she's running. That ammo actually feels pretty good out of this gun despite having some boom to it. 1180.4. Ooh, pulled one. Excuse my pulling a shot. I'm not used to a dot too much, but 1170, and it ran them. And there's what I did with that cadence. I'm just trying to run these through the gun with a good grip. I don't want to have any excuses, so I'm not shooting super fast or anything like that. On to the next one. All right, here's the 200 grain hard cast solid. Something about the actual lead color just looks so much meaner to me. I really like that. Velocity out of a 5-inch barrel should be 1275. Let's see what we get with the 4-inch. 4-inch comped at that. All right, we're set back up and we're sweating like a dog, but let's see how she runs this stuff. Smoky like hardcast likes to get. It functioned properly, 1149.5, and that hit very good as far as where my aim was. This gun is 0 to 25 yards, but at this distance, which is about 20 feet or so, it's actually hitting point of aim, point of impact really well with this round. 1156.4. Yeah, it's hitting really good. And she feels good. Definitely very shootable, especially if you know you're carrying a 10mm and you know what it's there for woods defense or whatever. Totally shootable. 1165.6. Look at all that smoke. That's fun, actually. I like that. 1170.8 was the last one. Let's go take a look. So I started drifting down a little bit here, but most of my first shots when I was actually taking my time were right here. I'm actually beating up that bolt pretty good. So this is my shooting. That's not the ammo for sure. Pretty darn good. Anything under hand size, I feel is good for grouping for that kind of shooting. And again, I'm not going for total speed. I'm going for control on the gun because I don't want to make it jam by limp wristing or anything like that. Let's move on to that heavy stuff, see what that does. All right, here we go. 230 grains. This bullet looks a little bit different than the other bullet, but we're stuffing a little bit more weight in there. Still that mean looking lead. So let's get the +1 taken care of. Back up to 15. Now every one of these shots are going to be controlled because, like I said, this could be the ammo that would give the gun problem if I thought anything would as far as being a heavyweight. So I'm not going to do anything to compromise the ammo running with poor shooting skills. I'm just going to keep it good to go, good tight grip. That actually feels really nice. 1041.8. 1039.9, 1043.7. Smoky like the rest of them. It ran them. Awesome. Look at that smoke. Let's go take a look. All right, not a bad grip for not trying to really do bullseye shooting. Like I said, I was focused on my grip. It feels really good, that ammo, and it cycles, so I'd say that's a winner chicken dinner. This gun is doing really good, especially compared to the other one that we had years ago, the non-comped version. All right, 3 versions of double tap. M&P 10mm Performance Center Carry Comp. They get along. One of them being a no-joke defensive round, and 2 being a hard cast heavy round, and heavier round. And again, that's what you need from this firearm. It needs to be able to shoot range ammo, light ammo, hot ammo, or whatever, because 10mm has the problem of being loaded all the way across the spectrum all the time. You never know what you're going to get from just a random 10mm box, unless they tell you on the box the exact velocity, which a lot of them are just not doing it. But the lower loaded ones almost never give you the velocity because they know it's just a bunch of BS. So your Federals and things like that, we saw that aluminum case ammunition. Oh my God, was that lightly loaded? Those were 10mm cowboy rounds. And then what you just saw was real 10mm. There's the information. Use it as you see fit. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next one. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Definitely 10mm. And check out that playlist if you haven't already. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. The Smith Wesson Performance Center Carry Comp. We've been doing a lot of testing with this. I hope you're keeping up on the playlist. If not, check it out. It's very good stuff. We've been trying to put out a video day after day. It's been doing pretty well so far, but now we got to get into a serious, intricate, weird little one. And I call it intricate because you kind of got to do this in the right way. This is something that affects a lot of handguns and a lot of shooters. We're talking about limp wrist testing. You already saw that from the thumbnail. It's kind of a goofy looking thumbnail. I'm sure I kind of look like, you know, a whatever. But the truth about limp wristing is a lot of times you'll watch people shooting. I get this a lot from watching police videos where they have to deploy certain tactics, and pretty much they look like this. They're in some compromised positions. They don't have a good master grip on the firearm, two-handed grip. A lot of times it's one-handed grip under panic situations, and you see a lot of firearms. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, and this is gonna tick a couple people off, but Glock 9mm, this happens a lot. M&Ps are a lot better with this situation with limp wristing. They don't tend to jam up as bad as a Glock in my opinion. A Glock 20 in 10mm though that I have does pretty darn well. Now this is a 10mm firearm. It's got a compensator on it. I don't know how that's gonna react, the compensator, if that has anything to do with this, but we wanna see if this thing is limp wrist proof, because 10mm can be a pretty stout cartridge, and if you're not ready for it, you don't have a good grip, is the gun gonna lock up? That's really bad in a defensive situation, whether that's personal defense, bear defense, woods defense, whatever you're talking about. You don't want your gun locking up. We see it, again, I'm gonna say it, in police videos. It's pretty bad when you do see it. It can be detrimental in a, you know, situation. So I have a couple different ammos I wanna run through this to get different effects for recoil and slide reciprocation velocity, I guess you'd call it. So we have some S&B, which is some pretty light stuff, just typical full metal jacket, 180 grain. Then we move up the grain weight a little bit with some ammo that's not too terrible, but not too great either. PMC bronze, but that's a 200 grain. Then we have ammo that's a little bit warmer, but back down to the 180 grain range again. And then we have some different grain weight for sure. We have 155 grain XTPs loaded by me, and those are loaded with a pretty stout loading of blue dots. So this will be very warm ammunition. This is very close to Underwood type of ammunition. It's right there with it. So between these four ammunitions, we're gonna go out back into a safe direction, and this is complicated testing, I'm telling you. It's, if not complicated, let's just say you don't want to do this all willy-nilly. You have to kind of know what you're doing to do this, so leave the testing up to us. We're doing it for you today, at least with these few ammunitions, to give you a good representation of the limp wrist situation. We'll find out if it does it or not. With all that said, let's get to shooting. All right, first ammunition is going to be the S&B. We're gonna load a full magazine of this, but we're not gonna shoot the full magazine. We'll just shoot whatever it takes, but we wanna have the full magazine effect in case we were to have a full magazine in real life. The next one we're gonna load up is the PMC bronze 200 grain. All right, you gotta be really safe if you ever do this, but I don't recommend you do this. We're in a controlled environment. We're gonna be shooting straight into the ground. I'm gonna start with a pretty decent grip, but not a super strong grip. And I'm gonna fire one round, and then every round I'm gonna loosen up my grip even more to the point where I don't really feel comfortable anymore getting any looser. So, you ready, camera guy? Yep. Here is a grip, but not a super good grip, one-handed 16 plus or 15 plus one in the gun of the S&B. Starting with shot one. Let me point this thing away from camera guy with that comp in there. All right. Is that cool with you, camera guy?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna loosen up my grip a little bit. You're gonna see that I'm opening up these parts, the parts you would normally get a better grip with. Hasn't jammed so far. So now I'm gonna only hold these fingers on it, and I'm gonna actually get a little bit lower here to kind of make more of a rocking action. And it's still fired. Now I'm telling you, the lightest I can really hold this gun is gonna happen right about now. There we go. So I'm done. That's where my comfort level is with that particular ammunition. Let's move on to the 200 grain stuff. All right, so 15 plus one. We have 200 grain ammunition in here now. So a one-handed grip, but not a perfect grip or a super strong grip. Ooh, a lot of fire coming out of there now. It's cycled. Now I'm gonna loosen up a little bit. Wonder if there's any moles down there. They're gonna be mad. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna separate my fingers a little bit, and I'm gonna go down on the strap a little bit. Woo, that's kind of hard to hold on to right there, but it has not jammed yet. So I'm going to go the loosest I feel comfortable. And that's going to be right about here. This is going to be a limp wrist for sure. I'll even limp wrist it like that, like total Homer Simpson stuff. Woo! And it still fires. All right, that's where I'm comfortable with that one. Let's go to the next one. All right, next up is the MagTech 180 grain. A little bit warm stuff, I guess, for 180 grain. Not hot, but warm. All right, 15 plus 1. Let's see how we do. Whew. One-handed's a little different animal. All right, well, one-handed limp wristing. All right, we've loosened up a little bit now. Still going. That's loud in the woods. All right, I'm gonna loosen up even more, get low on that back strap. Whew, still going. And then about as loose as I possibly can get on this thing. That's as comfortable as I feel right there. You saw the flip in the muzzle. That's as far as we'll take it. About 4 rounds, 4 different variations. Let's load up the next one. All right, here's my hand loads. These are these 155 grain XTPs. I have them loaded in Jaegerman cases. That's why they are dark like that. Pretty cool case I found one time and just had to absolutely have it. But yep, total hand loads, but total hot hand loads. So it's even written on there. Hot stuff. All right. You ready, camera guy? I'm gonna hold it pretty good this time because I know this one's a good one. Yep. All right, here we go. Whew. Absolutely, that's a good one. Gosh, check out the crater in the ground right there, camera guy. That was the crater that just made all the other craters fill in. Holy crap. All right, so we're gonna loosen up. I got to be careful with this one. I'm going to angle away from camera guy a little bit and towards that backstop over there because we are professionals. So, and we got a weird angle on my wrist. That's going to hurt. Let me drop it down a little bit. Whew. Absolutely no joke. I'm going to go down on the back strap a little bit more, and this might be the last one we take. All right, that totally survived the limp wrist test with 3 different ammunitions, or 4 different ammunitions. Mild to wild, I would say. That's a boomer right there. Well, there you go. Performance Center 10mm carry comp. It's doing pretty good right now. It just passed another test. That's limp wrist testing, totally successfully passed. Many videos already up, many more videos to come. Let us know in the comments what you think about this particular testing. I think it's interesting. I think it's important. I don't think enough people understand it, but it's pretty cool and we like to do it. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you tomorrow for another video on the 10mm carry comp from Smith Wesson. And no, this is not a promotion or anything like that. We bought this with our own money. We're spending a lot of money on this, but we're doing this thoroughly. That's why you're seeing so many videos. We are not cheaping out on this. No BS testing on the Turkey's Opinion. See you at the next one. Stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We have the M&P Performance Center 10mm carry comp back out again. We've been doing a lot of testing with this gun. Check out the series. It's pretty awesome. Now we're on to doing some stranger things here and there. Well, one of the, maybe not strange for this one, but unconventional. Let's do a comparison here with this carry comp, which has a huge hole in the top of it to hold the recoil down. Let's do a comparison with some other known 10mm platforms, especially a couple that are loved on this channel. We have the Springfield XDM Elite 3.8-inch 10mm, of course, which is a very nice shooting pistol. This thing eats up recoil like you would not believe. You would think it has a comp on it or something like that. A lot of people think that the shorter the gun, the more the recoil you get out of it, and maybe with some that is true, but this thing is balanced so perfect. Recoil spring setup is something else. I don't know what it is, but it just soaks up recoil. Another favorite of the channel is the Colt Delta Elite. That is a 5-inch 1911, and it shoots like a 1911. No comps reports or anything here, just an older design steel gun that soaks up recoil as well because it's a steel heavy framed gun. However, the characteristics of the way the 1911 works does actually allow for a little bit more recoil with certain ammunitions. But this one I like. I shoot it well. It shoots good with hot ammo for me, and I know what it feels like for sure. I've shot it so much. So another good one to do some comparing with. This one we have a ton of experience with. Should be easy to compare with this one. Now the Glock 20 is one I don't have so much experience with. I don't like the way this gun recoils sometimes, so I already have a little bit of a biased opinion about it, but I'm able to set that aside and just compare it. We have 4 different ammunitions on the table. We have a hard cast from Underwood and a JHP, jacket hollow point of course, XTP. So we're gonna run 1 round of each of those along with some Federal Syntech and some Blazer brass, just a decent spread I would think. 1 round of each through each one of these guns back to back so that we can just go through it. Boom, next gun, boom, next gun, boom, next gun, boom. And I'm just gonna give you what I think of recoil. We're not gonna do any kind of weird measuring or get up against the wall and do angles or any of that. I wanna know what it feels like in the hand. I'm sure other people have done plenty of comp measuring. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not an expert on comps. I just wanna know the difference between how they feel in the hand, and I wanna show you and talk it out in real time. With all that said, let's get to shooting. All right, I'll be shooting that cardboard. I don't want the noise of the steel. I'm gonna be shooting one-handed so you get an actual sense of the recoil. 1 shot with each. We're gonna do the Delta, then the Glock, then the 3.8-inch XDM Elite, then we'll do the carry comp. Oh, and I forgot to mention, that's the 180 grain Blazer. All right, now the Glock. .8-inch XDM Elite. And now, Smith Wesson carry comp. Actually, that one might have rose the most. I'm not sure. We'll have to check that out, but I still say the 3.8-inch did pretty good. All the other ones were just average. I don't know about that with this one. Let's move it on to the next one. All right, I'm going to say with that last one that I think the XDM rose pretty good, but felt pretty good at the same time. That, I think, carry comp, I think it actually felt probably the least pleasant. The Glock and the 1911 were pretty comparable. Now we're up to a 205 grain projectile that actually has a little bit of velocity in it for a 200 grainer or 205 grainer from Federal. You expect them to load baby sauce all the time, but these aren't too bad. So 1911, that has some significant recoil in there. It actually stings a little bit here in the back part of your hand or wrist. And when I say sting a little bit, I do mean a little bit. So here is the Glock. And, you know, the Glock and the 1911, I'm saying they're very comparable. At least I see they're going up to the same point in the trees. All right, XDM. This one might have a little more rise on it, actually. It does have a tiny bit more rise, and that one's getting tilted back a little bit more into my hand. And now we have the carry comp. And that one didn't rise as much, but that one stung the most right about here, I would say. I hate using the word snappy, but if there was a snappy recoil, it was on that one. So not proving itself too good on the comp for me right now in the first two, but let's move on to some Underwood. All right, now we have some 155 grain XTPs loaded by Underwood. Those are usually no joke, so let's see what we get out of this. They usually handle pretty stout, but controllable out of the 1911. Definitely that rocks you a little bit. It's not snappy, it's a little recoily, but it just drives back into your arm a little bit. All right, Glock loaded up. I would say that was more comfortable than the 1911, but had the same rise as the 1911. XDM. And I'm going to say that that one drove back like the 1911, had probably a little bit more rise. So far the XDM just lost this one. And let's see where the carry comp fits in. That's a hard one. It's got the same recoil as everybody else, and I would say that that one settled right in the middle of all of them. Wasn't too bad, wasn't the best, definitely just a middle performer for that one. All right, let's move on to 200 grain hardcast. All right, now we have the 200 grain Underwood hardcast. This should do pretty well out of this gun. It's not a bad shooter. It's a powerful round, but it's not a bad shooter. All right. Like I said, not a bad shooter. That's a 10mm recoil, feels like a 10mm, doesn't hurt or anything like that. That's a good shooter right there. All right, Glock 20. That felt a little more stout out of this Glock, but still not a bad shooter. XDM Elite. Recoil was about the same, definitely drilled through the wrist a little bit more, but not terrible. Carry comp. I'm telling you, that is worse every single time almost. That is not good. That one, it has the same amount of recoil, but it just stings and it snaps. It just has a snap to it flat out. And I think that's opposite of what comps are supposed to do. It might look different on video, but what I feel in my hand is just not great. Well, I think that was some pretty revealing testing, at least from my standpoint. I'm gonna go ahead and call it right now. This comp to me means nothing. Not on this gun, and probably not on a lot of them, but here's my deal. This gun compared to the other guns we just shot is probably one of the most least comfortable with most of those ammunition. So no matter what, I think of this one as an uncomfortable gun to shoot, and I've kind of been thinking that this whole time, but I needed to get back to my other 10mm to make sure that I wasn't just imagining things. So if this gun with a compensator is an improvement over the non-compensated 10mm version, then that's even worse, guys, because that means the other 10mm from Smith & Wesson that's not comped is worse than this one, but this one is not doing good amongst its other friends it was just playing with. So, again, I don't see the point. I'm not a big fan of comps, and this is kind of just reaffirming it. And I say I'm not a big fan of comps because I don't really feel that I need them as a shooter. I think they make things a little bit louder, possibly here and there, especially in an enclosed area, but they can also be dangerous, and we will explore that in a future video. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about the damage that these can possibly do. We have to test first before we run our mouth. A lot of people run their mouth without actually showing it. So we do the testing and show you as we run our mouth. So, I mean, seriously, if I had to pick one gun right now just based on recoil on those 4 ammunitions, on recoil, I'm probably actually going to take the Glock, surprisingly. And the second place is going to be a tie between that XDM and the Delta. I love the XDM. It does soak up recoil well with a 2-handed grip. That was a 1-handed grip, so I was just showing that to you with one hand so you can definitely see it. With all that said, you tell me what you guys think in the comment section. You saw it from your perspective. I have my perspective, and maybe some of you guys have experience with these firearms that we just showed side by side. That'd be interesting to hear what you guys are thinking. I know a lot of you own this carry comp. I want to hear your thoughts. I'm very new to comps. I know they can help in certain applications. I'm not sure if this is a great example of that. Now, I'm not foreign to brakes on guns or ports on guns, but the carry comp thing is pretty new to me. Always honesty here on the Turkey's Opinion. I'll tell you what I know and I'll tell you what I don't know. With all that said, thank you for watching this video. The playlist is getting very extensive. Check it out. And until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. 10mm for sure. Maybe comped ones. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. Smith & Wesson Performance Center Carry Comp. Very popular firearm right now. We've been doing a lot of testing with it now. Check out our playlist. Today's video is a little bit different than normal. We're going to go back to something we did in our original M&P 10mm testing like way back years ago with the non-comped version. So there was kind of a rumor going around that the 10mm magazines were the same as the 45 magazines, just a different follower and different round count. We found that to be not true. We found that to be not true due to the measurements on the feed lips. They just don't hold the rounds the same way. They're not as wide as they would be for a 45, of course, but they're close. They still do hold them. So the question is we haven't seen any beyond 15 round magazines for the M&P 10mm yet. We have the 15, which we can do +1, but we have 14 round magazines for the M&P 45. And I was wondering if you stuffed 20 rounds of 10mm in there like we did, and maybe if you even plus one'd it one time, maybe you can get 20 plus one into this M&P 10mm. Now you might be able to get it in there. Will it cycle properly? We don't know. So we're actually going to try it. Full metal jacket. These are hand loads, light loads, range loads, I would say. These are actually 200 grainers, so that's good. We like 200 grain in 10mm land. We're gonna see how this works. That's a lot of weight in this magazine. I don't know if the spring is made for that, but it's made to push 45 at 230 grain. So I'm pretty sure we can probably do this. Let's take it out on the range. This is gonna be really simple. We're just gonna see if they run. And just so you see how I'm gonna do it, real simple, we're gonna do our plus one, get that one out of there, and then we're going to carefully insert that one. There's 20, 21. All right, let's see if we can get 21 rounds of 10mm to fly down range out of this thing so we can be all, you know, like the 9mm guys, but 10mm. And I know the range is super overgrown. It's been a while since we've been able to mow this, but I'm gonna actually have to aim low on that plate too, because there's a bunch of holes in the middle of it I wanna miss. And nope, one of them flew out of there. So the gun is locked back in an odd way, and there we go. But nope, didn't strip one out properly, so that's a failure. We'll try it one more time. It worked that time. Well, we got 14 before we got another hiccup, but we did get a little hiccup there. And that's because those feed lips are not pinched enough. But maybe we can, probably better not. Doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to go fully into battery now. All right, we better quit playing around. All right, that's a failure. I think we can call that a definite failure. These are not the same magazines as you want to put in these. They're 10mm, not 45. I guess that's what we're trying to say. But it was worth a shot. And hey, sometimes the only way you find answers to questions is by trying things. We tried it. It didn't work. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next one tomorrow. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. Hopefully you're 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We've been on a super roll with this gun. This is the Smith Wesson M&P Performance Center 10mm carry comp. Today we will be checking out accuracy with these iron sights that came from Smith & Wesson. A little funky. We adjusted them a little bit. They're still a little bit funky. We got to get the proper sight pusher for these top or back and front sights. But we can still go for groups. That's what we want to know. How does this thing group? And we're starting with iron sights with 2 ammunitions. We just want to see, like I said, grouping with our eyes on these iron sights. These are serrated back, blacked out sights with a fiber optic front sight. It's a little bit funny, I'll tell you right now. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get really good groups with it. But we have 2 jacketed hollow point bulk-ish ammunitions. One's a S&B jacketed hollow point 180 grain. The other one is a Magtech 180 grain. Like I said, pretty much just bulk stuff, nothing super serious for carrying for defense in my opinion, but a lot of times hollow points can be pretty darn accurate. If we feel the need to, we can pull out some of my homemade stuff, and that's usually very accurate. I'll be shooting from 21 feet away offhand into these 2 B8 targets. 1 ammo here, 1 ammo here, and we'll put another one up if we need to try the homemade stuff. Yes, you heard that right, offhand, because our practical accuracy does not involve a bench rest or anything like that. We're just trying to get a feel for these sights in a normal shooting situation, not on a table or a bench or anything like that. Again, starting out with iron sights, but we will do this with a red dot also. Red dots can be a lot better for bullseye shooting at times. All right, I have 10 rounds, not 5, 10 rounds loaded up of the Magtech. This front sight settles in pretty good in between the 10 and the 10 on each side of the X. That's what I'll be going for, is a dead center aim. I know I'm not gonna hit there because the sights are off, but like I said, we're going for consistency and grouping. And we have some sort of a failure here. There is one in the gun. That is not good for a jacketed hollow point ammunition. Oh boy, unless that's an empty case. Nope, that's one that got hit. So let's see what went on there. Fresh one is in the gun. That was a hit. So that is some MagTech. That's a good enough hit. In my opinion, I would say that's a good enough hit. So for a jacketed hollow point defensive ammunition, you saw it right there on camera. This MagTech stuff, forget that trash. No way. I'll get it back in the bottom of the magazine. We'll see if it goes off with a second strike, but holy crap, that's not good. It went off with a second strike. Let's take a look at our group. All right, I would say that I had two different groups, and that could be because it's kind of weird on your peripheral. When you're using this fiber optic front, it's a little weird. You're trying to level off in your peripheral the top of this front sight, and you're trying to make a bridge across the back. You're trying to make it completely flat. Well, these serrations kind of give your peripheral eye vision, they give it different reference points to settle this bridge. So am I settling it right across the top? Am I settling it on that next notch or that next notch? I'm trying to get it across the top every time. So maybe that's two different reference points that are making that and that because you're focused on your front sight. So that's why we're focused on this testing right now, is to see if this is a good option for iron-sighted shooting. Now, it does shoot high no matter what, so that's not ideal for me. We're going to talk about that at the end of the video. I know why that happens. It's a Smith & Wesson problem for sure. Now, this could be having two different references, and this could just be two different bad shots or not ideal shots. That could be the ammo, though, too. I mean, we had a bad primer strike, didn't even light one off. That could be the ammo, could be me, but we might have a severely different powder charge in these, making these go a little bit different. I doubt it. Could be me, whatever, the sunlight. So throw those two out. Two different points of impact that were consistent here. That could be mechanical, that could be the sights and me. So just think about it. That's a lot to think about that I just threw at you. Let's switch ammos and see if the story changes at all over here. And again, this is a 10-shot group. That's really a good reason to do a 10-shot group, because we basically have 4 and 1 and 4 and 1 if you really wanted to think about it. 10 shots kind of showed the true story of this thing right here. All right, let's get these 10 shots downrange, and then I'll give some more thoughts on this whole situation. They're coming at my brain pretty quick. Whew, high and left. All right, those 10 lock back. Let's go take a look. All right, you could almost say I'm doing the same thing again. Group here, with just a little connection in the middle. That could be the ammo. That could be me again. So I don't like this setup whatsoever. I'm going to touch on this one more time. So when you're going to do a U-notch back sight with a fiber optic front, Springfield Armory actually does it perfectly. The XDM lineup, at least the XDM Elite, the 3.8-inch 10mm we have, they do it perfect because they outline the U-notch and it just settles in there like a cradle perfectly. You know you're centered. Glock does their square notch, but it's outlined. It tends to work very well. Smith & Wesson used to do 3-dot white sights all the way across, just dot, dot, dot. That works very well. This is known as pretty much a combat rear sight, and I don't know why, because it makes your shooting worse, but I just don't like the blacked out with the fiber optic front. It's not really compatible for most people's eyes, in my opinion, but the group is good enough, I guess, for defense. Now let me talk about this one more step. Smith & Wesson has a real problem with shooting high now recently with their sights. They did it with the M&P metal. This is not me shooting high. I'm confident in my shooting abilities. Smith & Wesson does not know how to match their front sight with their rear sight as far as height. Everything used to be very easy when it was the Novak rear sights. The 3-dot setup was perfect. Even if they did the night sights that they would put on the police models, those were usually shooting fine. These newer models, they need to use a different height front sight with their rear sight. I'm trying to help you out, Smith & Wesson. Talk to your engineers. It's an actual problem, but Smith & Wesson thinks everybody's just going to mount an optic on everything and solve all their problems. Some of us still use iron sights, And come on, guys, it's not that hard. On top of that, Smith & Wesson has a real big problem centering their sights. Now, these aren't exactly where the factory had put them, but trust me, Smith & Wesson just does not center sights anymore. Their front sight, their rear sight, they're always off across models, and it's kind of ridiculous. You see that that is causing me to shoot left, so between the sight being the wrong front sight height for the back, we're shooting high, and then off center because they just won't center anything. And if they do ever center things up and the gun doesn't shoot true, fine, we can move them. But to start out, they should be centered. Enough complaining. There's where we're at here. I don't really feel a need to bring the hand loads into it. I think that's a good enough representation. The next time you see us hit these targets, it will be with a red dot, and we might get a totally different story because we'll be zeroed in. Well, there you go. Iron sight accuracy testing with a 10mm carry comp. Like I said, we'll be back with a red dot. We could have better results there as far as grouping, and we'll definitely be zeroed. Hope to see you at the next video. Thank you for watching this video, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. 10mm, of course. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We have a nasty, hot, muggy day here where I live, where the range is, but that's all right. Despite the fogging up optic, one reason that carrying a red dot might not actually be the best idea in the world, but regardless of that, we're out here for accuracy testing. We already did iron sight testing with the M&P 10mm Performance Center carry comp. So this is the comped version of their M&P 10mm. Those of you that have been following the series know we've got quite a few videos up so far, and we're only going to keep doing more. We've got weeks worth of testing with this firearm. It's going pretty good so far. Now, I'm going to roll in a little footage here in a minute, and you can skip forward. I'll put the timestamp if you're not interested. But when we mounted this Holosun 407C X2, I think that's what it is. When we mounted that, we did some zeroing. I'm not that great at zeroing handgun optics, but we finally got it done. In the meantime, I kept Camera Guy on it with the camera because I knew that we'd have some sort of a hiccup probably if I didn't have the camera on it. Well, we did have a hiccup, and then we had a little bit of a hiccup while we were recording. So you guys are just gonna have to believe me. You'll see when I take one of the shots for zeroing, the gun didn't fully go into battery, and then the camera turned off for a second and back on, and that's just because we didn't realize there was a problem until I looked at the firearm. Then we saw a jam. That would be jam number 4 out of I don't know how many. I'll try to have it up in the corner. But many, many rounds of success, 4 jams so far, and this might be related to underloaded ammo or not hot enough 10mm ammo, let's put it that way. It's my hand loads. I load them light for just range plinking, and it might have been too light for the spring setup in this gun. So I'll roll that in there just so you can see it. For full disclosure, full honesty, we show you every malfunction we possibly can. All right, let's see if we're any closer. I swear I hate these optics. Uh-oh, we have a jam with range ammo, darn it. Now that's pretty light loaded stuff, I will admit, but that is a jam. That failed to take that next one in there. We'll help it out a little bit, but there you go. But the red dot is mounted. I chose this red dot because it's the red dot that I use on a few different firearms, and I really like it a lot. It's a brand new red dot, but it's the same as the one that's you're always seeing on the Springfield XDM Elite 3.8 inch. Super accurate gun, and it really works well with a Holosun, so I'm gonna stick with the same stuff. Same ammunition as the iron sight testing. When we did iron sight accuracy testing, check that out. The irons on this gun are not set properly. They were not zeroed properly from the factory. Smith & Wesson also is having a problem of recent manufacturing here. When they're putting suppressor or optics cut or optics height sights on there, they're not matching the proper front sight to back sight. It's a problem on our M&P metal, and with this gun also, the guns shoot high with iron sights. They're just not putting the proper size front sight. I don't know how this stuff gets through Smith & Wesson quality control, engineering, development, whatever it is, but it does somehow. So back to the zeroing part. We got this thing zeroed at 25 yards. I like to shoot at 21 feet for accuracy. I'm going to give them both to you today. So it shoots a little bit low at 21 feet, of course, because it's zeroed for 25 yards. I'll shoot first offhand at 21 feet, just like we do for most of our accuracy testing. Those of you guys that watch our gel test, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. 21 feet, we do pretty well. But for those of you that just have to see the bench rest portion, the bag portion, we will back up to 25 yards. And I agree, we should see that also. We have the same ammunitions that we used in the iron sight test. Plus, if we want to, we can pull out this SIG, very high quality ammunition. If we see something funky, we might use this one, or we might use some hand loads, whatever we decide. But we're just gonna put 5 rounds on paper with these 2, maybe 3, at 21 feet offhand, and then at 25 yards on a rest. If we use the Sig Sauer, it'll be a 180 grain full metal jacket, but these other 2 are jacketed hollow point, what I'm gonna call bulk ammunition, because it's a jacketed hollow point, but it's coming in these 50 round Magtech and S&B boxes. Not super high quality jacketed hollow points, but cost effective for sure. Sometimes jacketed hollow points also can be more accurate if they're loaded properly than your average full metal jacket. But this SIG stuff is good stuff. Like I said, if we need it, we'll use it. For offhand shooting, we'll be using these B8 targets. And like I said, we will be aiming here, but hitting low. We're not going for point of aim, point of impact. We're going for group size. When we back it up to 25 yards, we'll be shooting at the dirty birds. All right, first up will be the Magtech. Not a bad ammunition, actually. It's not totally 10mm like you guys like to see it, but it's not bad. I'm gonna load up 5 rounds to start with, and remember, this one did have a light primer strike on the first go around with iron sight testing, so let's see if we have any more of those malfunctions with this ammunition. That's not a gun malfunction. I thought that was a good strike. It's definitely an ammo issue, in my opinion. Primer issue specifically. All right, we're gonna be shooting at that left B8 target, 21 feet away. I don't know if I had the chronograph set up for the last accuracy test, but if we didn't, it's now set up here so you'll get what these ammos are. I'm gonna go ahead, we just cleaned this firearm about 20 so shots ago. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna smack the magazine. I'm gonna see if we're inertial loading any easier now. So, nope, it's not happening every time, but sometimes. That's just something I like to check on because the guns do break in a little bit and then that starts. So for anybody that cares. All right, we got 11.9 and we're in the X circle. Whew, that one dipped down a little bit low and I don't think that was me. 1127.2. That one's low also. I will say that this trigger does break a little bit earlier than you think it might, but I'm still ready for it, and I don't think that's me going low. 1122.1. All right, we're low again, and we knocked a brick out of the back of the backstop. Awesome. All right, now we're back up high again. So that first one being point of aim, point of impact, almost just kind of threw my mind for a loop. Let's go take a look. All right, excuse me fumbling in my brain, because here's what's going on. The first shot was here, and I know that I was aiming here on the X. I mean, the red dot was on the X flat out, and I know when my trigger breaks, it was still there. So I hit here, then I hit here a few times, so that's why I said I'm not sure I'm shooting low, but then I remembered I should be shooting a little bit low for this distance. But then I shot back up here. I'm telling you, every time I break the trigger, it's right here. So that could be ammo related. At least the ammo went off every time. Let's move over to the other ammo, and if need be, we'll bust out that SIG ammo. Now let's go with 5 rounds of S&B, see if that does any better. It did do better when we did iron sight testing for sure. All right, let's see if we do any better with the S&B. I guess I should smack that mag again, see what happens. Yep. All right. I'm gonna try extra hard this time, guys. All right, a little bit low and to the right, we had 10.55.0. That stuff feels like nothing out of this gun. My red dot is right there on that X, both of those shots, 10.75.6. When that red dot, or when that shot broke, that dot was on the X, 10.66.1. Again, right on that X, 10.65.6. Right on that X. Let's go take a look, 10.66.9. All right, I think that's more of a true representation of the accuracy potential of this gun, at least me offhand with this dot today. So it is low from the X, but it's not too low. So that's what I was worried about here. We kind of have to split the difference here, I guess, with this one to average out right about here and that's kind of where this one would average out. So that's probably ammo in my opinion. This is probably more indicative of the gun's capability. But you know what? I'm not happy with this. Let's get the SIG ammunition out. All right, 5 rounds loaded up of the good stuff. And for those that are wondering, this is a TLR 7X. The only reason I put that on this firearm is just to balance it out from having the red dot on top. So always good to have a little extra help with some weight down at the bottom. All right, 5 rounds of the SIG. All right, I'm a little bit low for what I want to be, but that's all right. 11:45.5. And let's go take a look at that real quick. 11:53.3, but let's look. So I just wanted to preserve that and show it to you before I changed ammos. That's what I'm talking about. SIG ammo is pretty good stuff. I don't care what you guys say about SIG as a company. You can't deny they make really good 10mm ammo, at least 10mm. All right, now that I've moved around the range, probably destroyed any chances of accuracy. And it's right there with the rest of them, 11:39.3. And 11:22.8. Let's go take a look. That last one was 11:16, I believe. And then that last shot that I took, I totally pulled that shot myself. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that last one, I started holding my breath like I have a tendency to do. So that was definitely me. I would say that's pretty darn good. That one could have been me, but that's a good 3-shot group right there. I mean, we got a little bit of grouping here and maybe here-ish, but definitely better with the SIG in my opinion. Now let's back this stuff up. 25 yards. All right, I'm gonna try to keep this simple. Some of you don't like watching the shots, you just wanna see the results. So I've loaded up 5 MagTech, 5 S&B, and then 5 Sig Sauer. We're gonna shoot all 15 downrange all at one time. You guys got the downrange camera to see things, but you can also fast forward. And then we'll go talk about everything after we let 15 rip. So in order, MagTech, S&B, Sig Sauer, left to right. That was 4, right?
Yep.
I actually have to count. Center target. All right, now we should be moving over to the right target. Camera guy's phone is right there. Ooh. That's some warm ammo. It's weird. The recoil feels so much stronger when you're on a bag, really. All right, there's 15 shots. Hopefully I spread them out like I was supposed to. They function. We lock back. Let's go take a look. All right, I'm gonna try to get this correct as far as what we saw on the slow-mo. You guys were there. Camera guy's gonna yell at me if I get off course at all, but this should be group one. This, and then where are we at, camera guy? Which one was it? Right. That one, okay. So that one, and then that. And then down here. So there's that group, and then I thought that this was all the SIG group at first, but no, that one got pushed over to that group, and this is actually part of this SIG group. So I thought we kept them all in the black, but going back to the first one, this is a group that is not where we zeroed the gun to. So we changed point of impact number one, and it's a pretty darn big group. Didn't have much hope for this ammunition to begin with, but I don't like that at all, especially just changing that point of aim, point of impact is crazy. S&B, the same thing. We came over very far and we don't have a very good group. So I don't like either one of these. These kind of almost look the same once you draw them out in a way. Going over to the SIG, remember, we have to exclude that one, but then pick up that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. No matter what, it's centered where we want as far as point of aim, point of impact. I would call that zeroed. And it's tight enough for 25 yards. So good job on SIG, terrible S&B, terrible mag tech. This is garbage stuff. Don't buy this for self-defense. We're going to test both of these just to show how pathetic they probably perform in gel and their accuracy. But yeah, don't do it. So confirmed better with the SIG each time with just the Full Metal Jacket 180 grain. So accuracy for me is just not there with this firearm. Now, granted, with the iron sights, Smith & Wesson can't even properly put iron sights on a pistol anymore. I don't know what that's all about. That's just ridiculous. Smith & Wesson, if you're watching this by any small chance, just deal with your team somehow. Iron sights should be centered and the front sight should be the correct height to match the back sight. And why does everybody need suppressor height sights and optics height sights when half the time they don't co-witness anyway? Anyway, with the irons, it wasn't where I wanted it, and it's definitely not there with a red dot. I have other firearms like Springfield XDM Elite 3.8 inch that I feel are very much more accurate. Point of aim, point of impact is more consistent with many types of ammo. Like I said, I use this Hollow Sun 407C. Yeah, 407C X2. Just a very simple dot, but I get along with it well, so no reason I wouldn't get along with it here. I shoot M&Ps well. I just don't know what the problem is with this gun. Not as accurate as I would like to see it. And that's just my opinion. Other people may have other opinions, and your mileage may vary on your specific handgun. But I'm just gonna call it accuracy mediocre. Check out the rest of the videos in the playlist. It's getting pretty extensive, and check out our video that we'll have out tomorrow. So there's the information. Use it as you see fit. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next one. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. 10 millimeters and like 110% humidity, maybe? What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. We have, again, the Smith & Wesson Performance Center 10mm carry comp. We have done reliability testing before, and the gun has done very well, with the exception of some Aguila. And that is just, in my opinion, usually going to be very low tier ammo. So that could be totally expected out of any of these 10mm guns. But today we're going to go ahead with my hot hand loads, a couple mild hand loads too, or at least one mild hand load, but the other three should be pretty darn warm. We're ranging in grain weight between 155, 180, and 200. And I think that if there's going to be something that will trip this gun up as far as hot ammo, it'll be this. I'm right up there with some of those other companies we know for doing cool stuff. So we'll go ahead and put the Max Blue Dot to the test with those projectiles. I'm gonna put rounds on steel. We're just gonna see how she behaves. Now, if she does give us trouble, we do have some options to go ahead and work those out, possibly. But we'll address all that in another video. If we run into problems, we're going to stop. We don't want to waste ammo. We'll just stop on that particular ammo and we will revisit it. She's been going really good. Like I said, we got plenty of rounds downrange. Check out our playlist, and definitely, if you're interested in this gun, subscribe so that you see the future upcoming videos on it. We've been cranking them out day after day. We want to give you guys really good information. This is no BS testing from the Turkey's Opinion, as always. With all that said, let's shut up and get to shooting. So let's start out with some mildly loaded 180 grain chunks of lead. And like always with this testing, we're going for reliability no matter what. So we're going 15 plus 1 like you would carry. All right, just to get started, 180 grain mild loads. 1 in the pipe, 15 in the stack. You'll see the velocity isn't a whole lot with these. We got 954.9 total baby stuff range ammo. Get hit with some lead, 943.5. I just got 3 stacked in there pretty good, 941.9. So ran them all, took the plate down a little bit, 946.3. We only caught 6 shots, but let's get that target put back together and load up the next ammo. She ran them. All right, now we have some 200 grain XTPs loaded with a pretty hot charge of Blue Dot. I can't give away the recipes, of course, but I promise you it's hot. You'll see. All right, +1. And yes, that is part of reliability, is just feeding out of the magazine, in my opinion, because that's how you would go from an empty magazine to a new one sometimes, is with a simple slide drop. All right, 15 +1, 1 for velocity first. That feels pretty stout. 1134.9, that's not the hottest that I've ever made these, but not too bad of a start for a 200 grain projectile. That one felt a little bit more. 1120.7. 1126. All right, so they're not the hottest in the world. You got me on that. I thought I loaded them a little bit hotter than that, but not bad at all. It's a good middle ground for us to work up to. Heavy projectile, and as we go down to lower weights, we'll increase speed. Ran them all, locked them back, 1133.9. Let's take a look. Yes, I just switched targets because I got lazy. I didn't want to fix the other one, but you can see it's pretty controllable and reliable. The gun right now for me with these iron sights is always hitting left and high a little bit, so pretty darn good group with that ammo. Let's move it on to 180 grain. And I don't even know what I was thinking just now. That was my velocity I was expecting out of my Delta 1250. That is what they get out of the Delta 5-inch 1911. I forgot we're dealing with a 4-inch barrel with a comp on it. So here we have some 180 grain projectiles. These are full metal jackets, and they are in a this is a Jägerman case. That's why it's the black. And yes, this gun is tearing my skin up a little bit. It has been for a couple days, but these are expected to go, let me see what that is. Out of a Delta, that would be 1369 feet per second. Let's see what we get out of this gun. All right, +1 it. 15 stack. Good to go, camera guy.
Yep.
That actually feels really nice out of this firearm. We're getting 1145.9 out of this particular one. That feels really nice. That looks like a big boom and sounds a little bit loud, but it's actually very comfortable. 1194.5. So significantly lighter than what we get out of the Delta. That comp is throwing some flame up for real. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that combination right there is throwing some serious flame. 1183.6, let's take a look. Reasonable accuracy without trying too hard, but yeah, that comp is throwing the fire. All right, now we have the 155 grain XTPs loaded up into a Jägerman black case, and that's just primer sealer. You see on those primers, in case you're wondering, those aren't green, that's sealer, or it's actually just marker. But we have these loaded up with what I consider to be very close to max charge of Blue Dot. You've seen these on the channel many times, so they're known as the Turkeys, or just anybody else's, max Blue Dot 155 grainers. We can go a touch hotter, but we're not going to. I don't know what these are even getting out of the Delta. My notes are at home, so we'll see what this gun does with them. All right, as always, +1. 15 in the stack. That was a horrible magazine load. All right, velocity check. Nice fire we get there, 1431. Now that's not bad at all out of this gun. I told you that's a stout load right there. It's a good light projectile, but 1431, that's really darn good. Out of a 4-inch gun. 1373. Look at the fire we're getting out of this, 1391. Whoa, Oh, I jerked one really bad right there. That's, I think, the first time I've actually gone ahead and ripped one down with this gun. Y'all caught me. Got a little ahead of myself, but for the most part, not doing too bad. 1422.9. Let's go take a look. That was a serious recoil anticipation rip down. That was not a post-ignition push. That was a total anticipation, but pretty good here for most of the shots. But you can see where some of those I was starting to torque down, and yeah, I completely missed with one of them. But it ran them. All right, I've pointed this out before, but I got to point it out again. So in other videos I've shown, this gun actually tears my hand up pretty good. I'm not wearing any kind of Band-Aid or anything right now because I want to actually see what's going on. I'm noticing blood getting painted on the back here. I wasn't sure what exactly was biting me. Without this back strap here, the smaller one where it eliminates this, it doesn't happen, or it still happens. It happens with this standing my hand off a little bit. It's just this gun running into my hand with anything warm. It's not slide bite, but you can see that outline of blood. It just keeps running into my thumb. It makes it very uncomfortable to shoot, to tell you the truth. I can't remember any other gun doing this to me in semi-auto form, including any of my other 10mm. I don't know what it is about this gun, but it's just grabbing me. All right, there you go, guys. I promise you, mild to wild with my hand loads, and this thing did really well. I'm really proud of this gun right now. We had hiccups originally with the first version, the uncomped version years ago. I had high hopes for this one, and I think Smith & Wesson is doing something right so far. Cross our fingers, knock on wood, and all that. But man, I'm really liking the fact that it's eating all the ammo. The biggest, most important part with a 10mm is the ability to eat ammo, because there's such a plethora of different types of ammo, different powers of ammo, different types of ammo. And then when you bring hand loads into it, which a lot of people hand load 10mm to save money, when you do that, you got to make sure these things are reliable. So great testing there. Come back for more testing. We're doing videos every day on this. We have so many up. Check out the playlist, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with anybody that might be interested in this gun or just interested in this in general. With all that said, thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next video. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Maybe a 10mm. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. 10mm testing continued. Smith & Wesson Performance Center Carry Comp 10mm, of course. We have been testing the crap out of this gun, and it's actually been doing surprisingly well. We've had very few malfunctions, and those 4 malfunctions we've had are not the gun's fault, in my opinion. So pretty much with every ammunition, mild to wild, hand load, factory load, all kinds of target loads, all kinds of defensive loads now, they've all been going very well through this gun. Now here's something that might trip this gun up a little bit, and if it does trip it up, it's not the gun's fault. But we like to do this testing with all of our 10mm, and some of you might not agree with this testing, and that's okay if you don't. We don't need to hear about it in the comment section about how bad of an idea this is. We're big boys and girls, we know what we're doing. And that doing is putting 40 Smith & Wesson into a 10mm. Now, of course, all the manufacturers are going to say, do not do this. And I know that there's reasons why it might not be good for a firearm. But we always want to know with any specific firearm that we're testing, will it work? Now, trust me, there's no big risk to doing this other than the gun malfunctioning pretty much. So again, don't freak out over this testing. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this testing, but we just don't need to hear a bunch of safety rants. Now, we do this testing in case somebody's in a pinch. They have a 10mm gun, they don't have 10mm ammo, but they can get their hands on 40 caliber ammo. And some people just like to practice with 40 caliber ammo as a cheap alternative to 10mm. And since it will fit if you put it into a magazine and try to load it into the chamber, sometimes this can happen on accident. So no matter what the reasoning is that this might happen, we like to see what will happen if you do it. The ammunitions we've chosen are simple. We have some mild reloads and we have some really hot reloads. Some of you might have seen our long shot testing where we have very, very hot 40 Smith & Wesson made from long shot where we did not intend it to get so hot. It's basically mild 10mm packed into a 40 Smith & Wesson. Then we have actual 40 Smith & Wesson range ammo. Then we have some Winchester range ammo, and then we have some Winchester Ranger. So we're not holding back for you guys. Ranger T 40 caliber through the 10mm M&P. That's a pretty good test. And I'm not afraid to load 15 plus 1 for a total of 16. I want to see how this will go. I have a feeling she's actually going to run. If she trips up on anything, it's probably going to be my mild range loads. So with all that said and testing explained, let's get to shooting. All right, we got 1 in here. We got 15 in the stack. We're about 21 feet off that steel. And that feels really soft. Easy shooting. It's cycled. And the brass is ejecting right about here, about 5 feet to the right at the max. Now, normally the 10mm ejects like, we had some cases from Underwood going 35 feet to the right. That was crazy. About 4 o'clock, 35 feet. This stuff's kind of just puking out of the gun. Still running. She ran 15+1, no problem. That was the light ammo. Let's go to the hotter stuff. All right, big difference. Those first 15+1 were full metal jackets with a little bit of tight group behind it. These are 150 grain nozzlers with a nasty amount of long shot behind it. And when I say nasty, it's because we did not expect the velocity we get from these the way they're loaded up. Now that did jam it up right there. That didn't like to run that type of a hollow point. With that probably spacing in the magazine is what I'm gonna assume. I don't think I'm gonna get it with a normal, yeah, I did get it with a tap. How about that? So a tap put it back where it wanted to be. And it ran. All right, we may be in the clear now. You can definitely see those are warmer. And we had another one of those type of jams. So again, not the gun's fault whatsoever. We're just showing you what might happen. And I don't think we're gonna fix this one with just a tap. I really doubt that one. That one's a little bit to the side, but that just shows you they're not working their way out of the magazine properly. We'd have to pop that one out. The next one got in line. If I can find my dot. And there we go. So that one's not too perfect. Let's go ahead and try the Winchester. All right, Winchester white box, everybody's favorite high quality ammunition. And it ran at least one of them. And there we go. We have a trip up right there. That one's a little bit weird and wonky right there, the way it's sitting. Didn't think that was going to work. So that one lodged itself in a very weird way down there. And there you go. She finally got through them. All right, 15+1 of Ranger T. Now, this is really good ammunition for 40. I'm not going to try to waste it. If we run into a jam, we will stop. And being such a big, wide hollow point, I definitely am expecting a jam. And it ran the first one, and that was dead center. Not so good on the rest of the shots, but at least it's running them. Yep, there we go. We had a jam. We got through more than I thought we would. So, like, in a pinch, you could possibly use this stuff, but expect to do some remediation drill. Well, there you go. There's the information. Use it as you see fit. I personally think it went pretty much like I expected. I didn't think it would eat all of this totally fine, but it did eat a lot of it, surprisingly. It was just doing way too well with its actual 10mm ammo to go ahead and want to eat this ammo too. It's not a Springfield XDM Elite. It's just not. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, refer to the Springfield XDM Elite 3.8-inch playlist. Very awesome 10mm firearm. But this one has not done bad during our testing. This is just a weird test. So again, don't put anything behind that as far as if this is a good gun or not, unless you really only plan on running 40 Smith & Wesson through it, and therefore I don't know why you would even buy it. Pick up the M&P Metal 40 for that one. But like I said, many of you do run 40 Smith & Wesson through your 10mm, so you need to have this information. I told you to be the most complete testing on this firearm on YouTube, and I mean it. There's the information. Use it as you see fit. Let us know in the comment section what you think about this test and any other testing we've been doing. The playlist is getting pretty extensive. Check it out. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Thank you for watching this video. Until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. We have weird testing for you today in our 10mm testing series for the Smith & Wesson 10mm Carry Comp. Performance Center, that is, whatever that means. So we have the Aguila ammo out, and no, we're not going to be shooting this gun because we had problems with this ammo in this gun, and we need to try to figure out what was going on. This is a very light range load. It's the only ammunition that actually gave us problems. Well, there was one hand load that I had that was pretty low power, so we can't blame the gun for that one either, but out of 4 total malfunctions, 3 of them came from the Aguila, and that's out of more than 500 rounds. Again, one of my hand loads, low power stuff that probably just didn't cycle the slide properly, but then 3 malfunctions out of Aguila. We have them on camera. And 1072.4, so nothing super hot there, and we have our first malfunction. I had a good grip on that gun, and darn it, this is 180 grain range ammo. We're not supposed to be having malfunctions. I'm shooting a little bit high now, actually, and we have our second malfunction. Now, this is, like I said, 180 grain range ammo. But there we go, a really good grip. Now we have another malfunction. I don't even know how many that is. We'll put a counter up on the screen. We're gonna keep a counter in general. So right there, pretty pathetic. We checked it with the chamber checker and all that, did the kerplunk test. It all fit, it just didn't run. So we could be dealing with a low power situation or just something was out of spec. But to check that, we have 3 other firearms on the table. And yes, all of these guns on the table are loaded. Pretty sweet. So we have 13 loaded into the Glock 20, we have 9 loaded into the 1911 Colt Delta Elite, and we have 12 loaded into the Springfield XDM Elite 3.8 inch. At least I think that's the numbers. I don't know what to expect, except for the Springfield will probably eat anything we ever give it, so it's probably gonna run the Aguila no matter what. But we might trip up on these 2, or we'll trip up on all of them, or none of them. But if Mexico's finest ammunition trips up any of these 3 guns, we know we can't blame the M&P for tripping up on the Aguila. And truthfully, I don't like this ammunition too much in just about any caliber, let alone 10mm, so I'm putting a bet right now, it's gonna trip up something. But enough talking, let's find out. All right, we're not going for anything other than functionality right now, so I'm just gonna put a good grip on the gun and do a little shooting for you. She ran them, but that's the Springfield XDM Elite for you. She will run anything. All right, Colt Delta Elite loaded up with 8+1. She ran them. Glock with, I think, 13. Maybe that was 12, maybe that was 13, but it ran them all locked back. Glocks feel so weird to me after shooting these other guns. Well, there we go. The Glock ate it because it's a Glock, I guess. The 1911 had no problem because 1911s are awesome. The Springfield XDM Elite eats anything, so I don't know what happened here. We kerplunk test the ammo. I mean, we didn't kerplunk the ones that failed. That was an afterthought, but we checked more of them, the subsequent rounds, and they all went past their kerplunk test, no problem. I didn't want to waste them trying to jam this thing up. I wanted to see about the other firearms, and the other firearms ran them, so I really do not know what's going on. This ammo was more expensive than the rest of them. The range ammo, I'd say, was probably about 9 beans more expensive than your average of everything we've shot range ammo-wise, so I'm not going to be buying any more of it, that's for sure. I don't think we need it in our testing. There's nothing special about it. And I really don't know if it was the ammo or the gun now. I guess we might never know, but I think we can probably safely say that it was something to do with this. And if anything, it might have just been underpowered. So the bottom line is, I can't blame the M&P for the choke up that it had with it previously. With all that said, thank you for watching this video. There's the information. Use it as you see fit. Hope to see you at the next video. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. 10mm, of course. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. Final thoughts on the Smith & Wesson Performance Center 10mm carry comp after more than 500 rounds, 30 different types of ammunition, and a whole bunch of videos. Iron sights, red dot, range ammo, defensive ammo, light stuff, hot stuff, comparing it with other firearms, checking out how dangerous the comp might be, shooting this thing at night to see how loud that thing gets in your eyes. We already know the comp gets loud in your ears, but a little flashy sometimes with certain ammunitions. And we even did weird stuff, like try to confirm if 45 magazines will feed or not, and if 40 Smith & Wesson will feed and function or not. If you haven't checked out the playlist, there are plenty of videos in there to keep you busy for a while. Before you get to the final thoughts, I wouldn't spoil it right now. Watch the other videos. But anyway, final thoughts. So after all that ammunition, I know you guys want to know how many failures. We had 4 failures, 3 of those from Aguila range ammunition, 1 of those from one of my hand loads. I'll address the hand load first. It was a very light target load that I use in my other firearms. I never made sure it functioned in an M&P 10mm as I was making it and, you know, building up my stockpile of range ammo. And I keep light ammo on hand just for nice, easy plinking. It doesn't always have to be super nuclear 10mm. But anyway, that might have been a little too light to cycle the slide. That was 1 round. The other 3 malfunctions came from Aguila ammunition, which I always consider to be a very low tier ammunition anyway. I also think that could be enough power to cycle the slide type of thing. Now, we did do a video where we ran that ammunition through 3 other firearms successfully, so I'm not sure if it was the gun, the ammo, or a combination of the 2. But again, I consider that low tier range ammo, and as far as the other 30 ammos or 29 ammos that this gun ran, it ate them all. And we're talking hot loads, light loads, defensive loads for 2-legged critters and more. Hard cast for bears. It ran powder-coated bullets. It ran aluminum case ammunition and some really low-powered ammunition, like I said, and that was the aluminum case stuff. It was what we called the 10mm cowboy load. The heaviest she ran was a 230 grain double tap round that was loaded pretty darn warm, and the lightest stuff she was running were those light hand loads that I make. But compared to the other 10mm that we had on the channel years ago, night and day, I would say that this thing passes the reliability test, and that's not easy. 10mm ammo is all over the map, as you probably know. It's hard to get a gun calibrated to function with all of it. Smith & Wesson got this one here, this particular one in front of me. They got this one to do it properly. So no complaints at all out of the reliability department. We did not have to put in any extra power, any kind of springs. We had them on hand just in case, but we didn't use them. Now, you may want to use them if you're going to run hot ammo all the time. It's just a preference thing. Check your gun out, make sure it runs to begin with the regular springs, I would say. And if you need to upgrade, upgrade. But there's options out there, at least, if you do need to use them. As far as the optic, there's options out there too. A lot of people, they don't want to run the Smith & Wesson plate on there because it's a plastic plate or a polymer or whatever. They're seeking out the metal plates because they're having problems with their optics flying off. We did not have that problem whatsoever. This is a Holosun 407C X2, I think. It's one of my favorite pistol optics. That's why I bought a brand new one to put on this one. I mounted it according to instructions, and I did not have a problem. I used the Holosun screws, 15 inch-pounds of torque with a little bit of Loctite. But I do have the Smith & Wesson plate in there, and it's not been a problem. I'm actually going to check it for you right now. I still have this screwdriver set at 15 inch-pounds, and if it loosened up at all, we should know right about now. It did loosen up a hair. It did loosen up a hair. Let me check that to make sure I'm at 15. I am at 15, so we could have been close to actually losing it. We didn't lose it during the video, but that loosened up significantly. So maybe it's not a good idea to have a plastic spacer. You saw it in real time here. No BS on the Turkey's opinion. And as far as how many rounds were through this gun to loosen that up, it was our accuracy testing, our double tap testing, and then just a little bit more, including the 40 caliber testing. So I'll try to come up with a round count and put it up here in the corner for you. As far as ergonomics go, I'm very used to M&Ps. I like them a lot, so it's just like any other M&P for me. However, I did have to put the very large backstrap on. I think it's called medium large. That's the biggest one they have with the tang on back, because she was biting the crap out of me somehow. It was not a slide bite, but something under recoil was really making the corner of the gun pinch my hand. You saw that in a couple of videos. It was pinching it or rubbing it or doing something to make an abrasion here on my hand. Very uncomfortable. But when I finally got to the largest backstrap, I kept gradually making them bigger. When I got to the bigger one, that alleviated itself. So at least there's a fix for that. Some people report problems with magazine falling out of this gun. I'm not sure if that's actually a mechanical problem or if they're just hitting the magazine release. I'm very used to Smith & Wesson's M&Ps, so I don't have problems with that myself. Maybe this is just me being lucky not having that problem, or maybe it's other people are actually actuating the release and they don't realize it. I'm just saying it's possible. So reliability, good. Ergonomics, good. Iron sights, totally off from the factory. They were not centered, and I don't like how Smith & Wesson does not know how to set up their iron sights properly anymore. They used to do it just fine with 3-dot white or 3-dot night sights, but now they don't do that anymore. They put the suppressor height or optic height sights that sometimes don't even co-witness, so I don't really understand the point of that. But anyway, what they don't know how to do is center their sights, and they also don't know how to put the front sight that corresponds to the right back sight on. It's a discrepancy, and it makes the gun shoot high. They need a different size front sight, and the last time I checked, because this was a problem with my M&P metal 40 caliber, they didn't have other options for front sights. Maybe other companies do, but Smith at the time did not. Total bummer, total boo. Moving on to the optic situation, you just saw about the optic needing torque back down. We didn't lose it during firing. The mounting system is what it is. I'm not a real big red dot person, so I personally wouldn't even be using it with a red dot. So I don't have too much opinion on red dots with this gun, other than it helped us get good accuracy testing, and we might want to use a metal plate and maybe put a little bit more thread locker on these things when we do torque them down. The trigger in this gun is okay. I would say it did break in a little bit as we shot it. It got a little bit better, less grindy. That's to be expected. And racking the slide feels much better. It was pretty grindy at first. We broke that in a little bit, but I will say it does have a weird little hang up right at the end. Some M&Ps do, some M&Ps don't. This one started to kind of develop more of a hang up at the end, I think. We learned that we can get the gun to inertial reload by smacking a magazine in, and then it will go ahead and close the slide and load one. After just a handful of magazines, it started doing that. It's up to you what that means, if you care or not. I've cleaned the gun twice. There's no abnormal wear on the inside of the gun that I could see. The whole barrel situation does get pretty gnarly looking and weird looking where the comp is. It gets a bunch of stripes across it. It looks like it's getting beat up pretty good. I just think that's something to do with the way the comp is in there throwing fire all the time, but I really don't know. Now, here's where things are going to get a little complicated as I talk about this for a second. So while we're on that porting situation, or I keep calling it porting, throughout the whole series I've been calling it porting, the comp. So the comp situation. Now, I don't know much about comps either. I've avoided them. I've always thought it's probably a bad idea for defensive carry. We did a video on that in this series where we did a possible tissue damage test of what could get blasted out of here if you were to have any part of your body in the way when that happens, including retained shots, where Smith & Wesson tells you don't do retained shots. But if you're in a defensive situation with a retained shot, you could get some stuff to the face that you really don't want. But as far as that comp goes, does it help the gun? Camera Guy and I both shot this gun, and we are of the opinion that, at least with the ammos we used, all 30 of them, that it does not really help this gun much. I mean, it actually could make things feel just a little bit worse because it just gets a little more boomy in your area around you. Camera Guy could feel some of the concussion because it throws gases in different places. I don't have a problem with 40 caliber, 357 SIG, or 10mm. We shoot it out of plenty of guns with no problem. I don't think I need a ported gun myself or a comped gun, but some people feel that they do. Now, I'm sure there is a actual percentage that it might hold the gun down, but it's imperceivable to me. And like I said, I think the overall boominess kind of takes away from any of the recoil mitigation effects. I was able to get on target pretty good with this gun. Maybe some of it was the comp, maybe some of it is just because I'm used to shooting hotter cartridges, but I don't really think it helped. I don't think it made enough difference to override the dangerous effect of a comp on a defensive gun, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Other people get very serious about that, where they want to argue it back and forth. I just don't want it in my life. I do not want to have to use this gun in close quarters, maybe in a vehicle or something, and have that comp blowing crap all over the place in front of my face. Probably with no eye protection and no ear protection. Just not a good idea, in my opinion. And 10mm at that. And if you're going to carry this for defense, check out our nighttime shooting video. Do not carry tumble upon impact. Not a good idea. So as far as compared to other guns, we did a video on that also. And you guys can look at the footage and see what you think and hear my comments about it. But I like certain other 10mm, like all the other ones we own, better. And that's not me trying to trash this Smith & Wesson firearm at all. I really do like M&Ps. I just don't like this one in 10mm. I didn't like the other one in 10mm. I think it's something that I have to let go of. I just don't think that they're for me. Which leads me to pretty much talk about, am I going to keep this gun or get rid of this gun? And I think you guys are probably lining up on the answer. Me personally, this one's not going to stay in my collection. Did it function properly? Did it pass all of its tests? I would say yes. I would say it's reliable enough to keep if you wanted this type of a gun. I just don't want it because of the comp, because it's not that comfortable to me, because it does have a tendency to tear up my hand a little bit, which is abnormal, and it's just not for me. I can't explain it. I just don't really want it, especially with the iron sights being off, and I like iron sights. I don't want to have to live with a red dot, and I don't want to have to spend a bunch of extra money on getting the iron sights right. Total honesty with the Turkey's opinion all the time. The gun passed the review just fine as far as reliability and whatnot, but I'm just not interested in this particular firearm. And trust me, I've got some experience with it. Again, check out the playlist. It's very extensive. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Totally complete testing here on the Turkey's opinion. No BS as always. Thank you for watching all the videos. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you at the next one. And until then, stay safe, have fun, and keep on shooting. An M&P 10mm carry comp if you choose.